D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Adam Vingan, Connor Newt, and David Janes here with you on a Friday afternoon. We hope you are all having a wonderful, wonderful day. Willie Donick is live in Denver, Colorado, where the Nashville Predators will take on the Avalanche later tonight. Puck drop at 8, pregame at 7, right here on 1025 The Game. And Willie is high because the Mets signed Bo Bichette today, right, Willie?
Well, I've learned over the years, Adam, to take big free agent signings by the Mets with a grain of salt, because while there are some good ones like Frankie Lindor, Carlos Beltran, there's also Mo Vaughn and Jason Bay, and the list goes on. So I'm optimistic. It's going to be a completely new look for the Mets. I'll have to consult Tehran, see what he thinks. But, hey, can't hurt.
Connor, how are you?
Doing well. Happy to be back. I think I've annoyed Chase McCabe enough out of the studio, so that's good or bad for the rest of you.
We shall see. Chad Withrow from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow will join us at 3:20. We'll preview the weekend, in the NFL Divisional Round. We'll preview the Predators road trip, of course, tonight in Colorado, tomorrow in Vegas, a quick trip out west for the Predators as they look to continue their winning ways. We'll touch on the coaching search, the Titans coaching search as well. And that's where I want to start because, Willie, you were not on the program yesterday, and we did spend a lot of time on Wednesday talking about the Titans' pursuit of John Harbaugh. When we were on the air on Wednesday, reports started to circulate that the Titans were preparing to go to John Harbaugh's house in Maryland to meet with him, but they never got that far. He canceled on them, and he's headed to New York. So, since we did not have you yesterday, your reaction to Harbaugh and the Giants and the Titans not even getting an opportunity to make their pitch to John Harbaugh.
I was a little surprised that he didn't see it through. So I don't know what turned it, but you can't worry about things that you can't control if you're the Titans. I think they were right in the way they approached it. They thought they had a chance to talk to him. But as I said from the outset, you can't put all your eggs in one basket so that if you don't get it, you're screwed with the rest of your plan. So hopefully they'll just be able to go on to the next. And it didn't drag out. I guess it's better this way, Adam, than having it happen where you interview him, then you wait, and several more days go by before he makes a decision, and then he ends up with the Giants. So I would look at it with glass half full that way.
This morning, Ian Rappaport, NFL Network insider, was on the network, and he was talking about the fallout now for the Tennessee Titans now that they've missed out on John Harbaugh. Here's what Ian Rappaport had to say.
I want to focus in on the Tennessee Titans here because obviously they were the other team really in it for Harbaugh. The Atlanta Falcons also were in it a little bit, but certainly the Titans seemed like they were all in, just like the New York Giants. They had a huge, huge offer prepared for Harbaugh. They were going to fly on the plane from Tennessee to Baltimore yesterday to woo him. They had sped up their search to make sure they fulfilled the NFL's requirement that if they had to hire Harbaugh, they could have done it last night, this morning, whenever. I would expect them not to hit pause a little bit, but maybe to take a little bit of a deep breath. In fact, they still have obviously some very, very good candidates that they still would like to interview for the first time. Robert Saleh would be one of them. Mike McCarthy would be another. And then I would expect them to bring in a second round of interview early next week. Now, the Tennessee Titans obviously liked Harbaugh. That is why they were willing to go in for him. But based on my understanding, they're extremely comfortable with the remaining pool of talent. But like Judy said, I don't expect anyone panicking right now. It was really Harbaugh and then everyone do the process.
So Ian Rappaport says the Titans had a huge, huge offer. 2 huges, not one, but 2 huges. 2 huges offer for John Harbaugh. Connor, I'm curious to know what that was. I think Harbaugh's being paid roughly $20 million per season on this contract with the Giants, which has not been finalized. But as we talked about yesterday, Connor, John Harbaugh and his agent, I have to imagine, wouldn't have even entertained the possibility of the Titans flying to Baltimore to meet with Harbaugh if they weren't willing to pay up.
No, and it, like I said yesterday, it wasn't going to be a negotiation as far as lowballing. It wasn't going to be the Titans coming in. We think you're worth 15, not 20. No, they were coming in with a minimum of 20. And obviously, as Ian Rappaport said, they're prepared to make a huge offer. So I think, obviously, it's just an unfortunate circumstance, like I told you yesterday, and like I still believe today. I think it's just the fact that New York got the first visit before the Titans, and they were determined not to let him leave the building without a contract. So it's unfortunate that they were prepared to make him this offer. It's unfortunate that he's not signing with Nashville. But as Willie kind of alluded to, you've interviewed 18 other guys. So your options are wide open. You've got plenty of interviewing and fact-finding to do, or maybe you've already done that and you're kind of just piecing together the puzzle. But I'm looking at this from a glass half full perspective, kind of like Willie, in that I don't think Harbaugh, was, as soon as he got to New York, I don't think he was even considering Tennessee. I think you just move on and look for the top targets like Stefanski, Saleh, you name it. I think you just keep your book open.
I do want to appreciate the usage of the word woo. People don't woo anymore. Or pitch whoopee. Maybe that's a term that Willie may have used at one point. Well,
I've never used that term. I've definitely used woo, but what was the whoopee?
Pitch
The
whoopee.
cushion?
No one's ever pitched whoopee before?
Whoopi Goldberg may have thrown a pitch. You never know.
I'm pretty sure that's a term. Somebody on the text line, 615-737-1025. I don't know where I've heard that. I don't know why it came to mind.
That sounds so northern. So
maybe I'm just making it up. Who the hell knows? But I do appreciate the usage of the word woo there by Ian Rappaport. According to our friend Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, the Titans interview schedule this weekend: Brian Daboll today in person, former New York Giants head coach. Saturday, Mike McCarthy, former Cowboys head coach, in person. Sunday, Jonathan Gannon, former Cardinals head coach, in person. Also Sunday, Robert Saleh, 49ers defensive coordinator, former New York Jets head coach. So 2 interviews on Sunday, Gannon in person, Saleh virtually. And Willie, it sounds like by this time next week, I wouldn't be shocked if we came on the air a week from today and we knew who the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans is. I think they're going to move pretty quickly, it sounds like, from this point on.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you interview a coach that is still coaching, so let's take Robert Saleh, can they offer him the job while his team is still playing, the 49ers, in theory?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I will have to look that up, or someone much smarter than me is going to have to text me and let me know.
I'm just, this is all hypothetical. If Saleh happens to be the next guy on the list, I'm sure they have some sort of priority with all these people that they are interviewing of who would be the next choice. If Harbaugh, we presume, was number 1. And I feel like now that Harbaugh has signed, the dominoes could start falling, right? So you don't want to waste time if you know your guy is. You know who your guy is.
Okay, a quick correction here. I was combining 2 terms, pitching woo and making whoopee.
Yeah, that was.
I was combining 2 totally different things.
why don't you tell us what pitching whoopee actually is?
Please don't. We like our jobs here.
Pitching woo I can tell you about. Making whoopee, I don't think I can. But I was combining the 2. So we're off to a rousing start here on D. Mace Vinkin and Tonic on Friday afternoon.
Emphasis on rousing.
Yeah. Shut up, Connor. Grow up. So yes, I got my antiquated terms confused. But thank you, lovely listeners, for correcting me. I did not want to look like a total idiot. But Connor, what do you think of these candidates coming in? Brian Daboll today and Mike McCarthy tomorrow, Jonathan Gannon. That's an interesting one to me. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend, guys, like I know a lot about the Arizona Cardinals. I did watch the Titans beat the Cardinals during the regular season as the Cardinals vomited all over themselves and then Jonathan Gannon hit the running back who dropped the ball as he was crossing the goal line that would have put the game away. So I don't really know too much about Jonathan Gannon as a head coach, but that one surprises me. I didn't expect him to be immediately on the list of qualified head coaching candidates in the NFL after what happened in Arizona.
I think a couple of these candidates that you're going to see coming in this weekend are more fact-finding than they are, actual legitimate contenders. Like Brian Daboll, to me, I don't think he's instantly going to become a head coach. I think someone will take a chance on him as an offensive coordinator, kind of like how I feel about Mike McDaniel. But there are some on this list coming in that I think are more attractive than others and I think would fit the system better. Like Mike McCarthy has been the hot topic since Brian Callahan was fired. Robert Saleh, I tend to mention a lot because I like the fit that he would have here. But Jonathan Gannon, I think you're right, Adam, is probably the most interesting on this list because I don't personally think he's qualified and ready to be another head coach immediately. I think someone needs to take a chance on him as a defensive coordinator, and he just interviewed over in Washington for their defensive coordinator position. So to me, Gannon is more of a, we're going to interview you for head coach, but you actually fit more as a coordinator. We're just kind of trying to figure out what you believe and what you stand for in terms of defense. And maybe that'll factor into our hire when we bring in our real head coach, and maybe you'll stand out as a defensive coordinator.
Speaking of ex-Titans head coaches, Brian Callahan interviewed for the Los Angeles Chargers offensive coordinator position. So good for you, Brian Callahan. Malika, if you're listening, Malika, you missed this yesterday, Willie. Malika called and she just eviscerated Brian Callahan just out of nowhere
For no reason.
for really no reason. But that, people have hard feelings, strong feelings about Brian Callahan. Also, Mike McDaniel did interview for the Baltimore Ravens head coaching position. So that picture you sent us, Willie, of Mike McDaniel waiting to board a Southwest flight from Nashville to Baltimore, he was going for his next interview.
He's well traveled. He was in some nice threads there. I was impressed. But this is why I think the merry-go-round, it's at a nice slow pace right now. You can talk to all these people, but I think the key is to be ready if people start making decisions. And you don't want to do you think they know who they want right now? Or do you think it's like, hey, maybe we'll feel differently after we talk to XYZ? Like, I have to believe that they have their target. And it's just a matter of whether they can get the target.
It depends on who you talk to. I heard Big Joe Dubin filling in for Robbie this morning, and he is certain that it's going to be Matt Nagy. I think a lot of people think it's going to be Matt Nagy, and all of these interviews are just a dog and pony show. So you could think that way. I have to imagine, even despite the fact, Connor, that they've been interviewing every living coach under the sun, that even before they whittle down the list, they have a good idea of who it's going to be.
I think they have a good idea of what they want in the coach. I don't know if they have specifically the guy that they want. Like, we're hiring Matt Nagy no matter what. We're just going to, make it look like we're evaluating every option so we can say that in our press conference. I think they have an idea of what they want. It's just a matter of which direction they want to go and which candidate they feel fits that the most.
Taylor in Bellevue on our text line, again, correcting me, says, making whoopee is what Bob Eubank said instead of the other term on the original Newlywed Game.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So
that was an often used term on that show.
Well,
which predates you and very much predates Connor.
I was about to ask, what's the Newlywed Game?
Oh.
I don't know if we should spend time
They
on
brought
that.
it back. It's come back a few times, but it I guess it originated, I don't know if it was maybe even late 60s, but definitely 70s.
yes. So
It was out there.
I apologize to our more distinguished listeners for confusing pitching woo and making whoopee. I like pitching whoopee, though.
Yeah,
Maybe that can become a thing now. Who the hell knows?
No.
Move over 6'7". Here comes pitching whoopee.
There's you some imaging right there.
Oh, God. One texter, Steven from Clarksville, quickly says, the pros and the cons of the Giants versus the Titans. Pros, Giants, ownership. It's New York City. It's actually New Jersey. Seemingly good young quarterback. The money, the market. It's new farting York. Again, New Jersey. The visibility. It's New York. Again, New Jersey. Titans, seemingly good young quarterback. New stadium. Tons of salary cap space. Cons, Giants fan base impatient expectations never wane. Outdoor stadium with extreme weather. Titans market ownership, the literal worst roster in the NFL. I would probably go to New York too. And I mean, it doesn't really matter now because John Harbaugh did pick New York. And sometimes I do think sell the city as an aspect of the coaching job is a bit overrated. I heard Diana Rossini on with Robbie and Rex Road earlier this week, and she was talking about, hey, the wives have a big say in this too, and they want to live in Nashville, and I get that. That's part of it. But when the coaches are really thinking about what's the best spot for me, I'm not sure where the city ultimately ranks. Hair Metal Henry says, distinguished listeners, where? It was a nice way of saying old, Hair Metal Henry. Distinguished. So 615-737-10. Oh, God. One texter says, can I be the Paul Skeens of pitching Whoopi? Have I started something here? I guess I've started something here. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will get back into the Titans head coaching search later in the program, and actually coming up next as well, because Chad Withrow from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow will join us. We'll ask him about the Titans' pursuit of John Harbaugh, what's next in the coaching search, and more. That's Chad Withrow of Outkick coming up next. 615-737-1025. The Game Nashville Sports Network is your home for the college football championship game. Monday night, catch all the action on 1025 The Game and 94.9 The Fan as number 10 Miami takes on number 1 Indiana. The college football championship game is presented by Twin Peaks and Parman Tractor and Equipment. D-Mace, Fingan, and Donick 1025 the game. David James has been surprising me with his music selections lately. JoJo, that's a good pull right there.
Had
That's a
to.
good
I had to throw it
good
out there.
tune.
That's a
Good
good
tune from
pull,
the
David
past.
James.
Nice one.
Let's
Shout
see.
out JoJo.
Is this because I said pitching whoopee? Does this have anything to
Yes.
do with that?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
All right. Anyway, let's go to our phone line driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com and welcome in our friend Chad Withrow from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow on Outkick. Hi, Chad. How are you?
Good. First off, JoJo is great, but do you know what's even better? Casey and JoJo.
Casey and JoJo.
All my life,
Fabulous
that-
song.
that's a banger, guys. That's one of the best of all time.
I definitely danced to Casey and JoJo at my middle school dances. Definitely
I
did
did
that.
the same. That just says we're right around the same age. I cried many a tear of 8th and 9th grade girls to Casey and JoJo's all my life.
Oh, boy. All right. Speaking of tears that have probably been shed, the Titans missed out on John Harbaugh. Chad, what does the Titans' failed pursuit of John Harbaugh tell you about the state of the franchise?
I don't know that it tells me anything different about the franchise that I didn't already know, and that is that they are at an ownership deficit compared to the New York Giants. The Mara family is more widely respected. And you look at the Giants, I mean, they've had, I think it's like 2 6-win years or seasons in 10 seasons. It's been bad. You know, it's not been quite as bad as the Jets, but it's been bad for the Giants for a while now. But I think that just shows that that's a franchise that has the respect of people in the NFL. And it's an ownership family that's got a ton of respect. And Amy Adams Strunk has to earn that respect back because starting with the John Robinson move, that was whether he had done a good job or not, he had won a lot of games as a GM, and he had built the Titans roster up to a point where they were one game away from a Super Bowl. The instinctive move to fire him, the reactionary move to fire him midseason was a mistake, and then compounded that mistake with firing Mike Vrabel, then the mistake of hiring Rand Carthon, and then the weird structure they had. She's got a lot of proving to do, I think, to woo a coach the level of John Harbaugh that can pick any available franchise that's out there. Now, that's not to say that the Titans can't go out and hire a really good coach. They can, and someone's going to want to coach in the NFL. So I don't think all is lost or anything like that. But I don't know that Adam had really told me anything that I didn't already know, and that is that the Giants is just a more coveted franchise than the Tennessee Titans, and I understand why.
I was reminded, as all of this unfolded, I was reminded of something I heard Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated say on his MMQB podcast about how the Titans owner, meaning Amy Adams Strunk, needs a PR win. And absolutely hiring John Harbaugh would have been a PR win for the organization. How many of the potential head coaches out there that the Titans could hire, Chad, would give the Titans a PR win? Or are there none?
I mean, they could trade for Mike Tomlin. I think that'd be a huge PR win, right? But I don't think he wants to coach next year. He's probably burned out. He's going to go do television, make a lot of money, and then get traded like Sean Payton was and go coach for another team at some point. I mean, in terms of PR win, I really think, guys, that the way to go, and hear me out on this, and I have not yet voiced this anywhere online or anything, but I think there's some merit to this. If you want a PR win and you are the owner of the Tennessee Titans, you need to kind of bring the band back together in an interesting way. And I think that includes the triumvirate of Arthur Smith as head coach, Mike Munchak, who hired Arthur Smith originally, on his staff, bring him back, and get Jim Schwartz in as your defensive coordinator. I think if you could do that, you could sell Titans fans on, we are going to throw it back to not the golden era necessarily, but to a time where this franchise was respected and where they won a lot more games than they are now. And we care about our heritage. We care about our former coaches. We care about our former players. I think that would be pretty cool. I like Arthur. I don't know what all went down in Atlanta. He had 3 7-10 seasons. I know he's a great offensive coach. I would be all for that move if that's the direction the Titans decided to go.
Talking to Chad Withrow of Outkick. Chad, in your opinion, where would you rank the Titans' job in terms of the available jobs and its attractability?
Oh, goodness. I think it's up there, honestly, because, some of these other jobs, Arizona, as an example, there's ownership issues there also. And also, what's the future of Kyler Murray? look, I think it all depends on how you view Cam Ward as the quarterback. But if you're just looking at, all the different variables of a job and what makes it attractive, I think the ownership situation is a big negative. I think the GM is a positive. I think having structure now where Chad Brinker has essentially been demoted and he's not going to have as much say, and everybody knows that you answer to Mike Borgonzi and then the owner, I think that's a positive. I think the market is a positive. Young quarterback, number 1 overall pick, positive. Draft position, positive. Cap space, positive. I think this first class for Borgonzi could be pretty good. That's a big positive. So I really do think you could make the argument that, once you get past the Ravens and the Steelers, the Titans are right up there for one of the best jobs. But I think that the Giants went out, again, because of the Mara family versus Amy Adams Strunk. But I do think that there's an argument to be made that it's right behind that list of openings right now.
Chad, the Titans have always kind of done this cycle when they're hiring coaches. They go from a defensive guy to an offensive guy and back again. Being as they just fired a former, offensive guru, we'll put that in quotations, would it make sense to hire a defensive guy and let him hire a coordinator to help develop Cam Ward, or just stick to the plan and hire an offensive coach to help with Cam Ward?
I mean, I think you just hire the best coach possible, and whatever side of the ball they're on, you make sure you hire a dynamite coordinator on the opposite side. To me, that is the biggest hire. If you're going to hire some young whippersnapper offensive guru that coached for Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan, which seems to be the way for a lot of teams, then you better hire a veteran defensive coordinator that knows they're doing, like a Jim Schwartz, let's say. Vice versa. If you go and hire Robert Saleh, then you better be able to go attract a Mike McDaniel to be the offensive coordinator. So you're right. This is the way it always goes, not just with the NFL, but in college too. You hire a defensive-minded guy as a disciplinarian. Well, we're going to go hire a more lighthearted, media-friendly offensive coach next time. Oh, that guy didn't work out. Well, let's go get the hard ass again and make sure that we give him a lot of money to be the coach. That back and forth, that tennis match of who you hire, it gets frustrating. I just think you got to go out and identify who is the best possible coach we can hire, who's best for the organization right now and this roster, who's going to work the best with Mike Borgonzi to build up what is a big-time roster deficit right now for the Titans, because they got one of the worst in the league. And once you identify who that is, you hire them with the knowledge that they know who they're going to go get for their coordinator on the opposite side of the ball, and it's going to be somebody that knows what they're doing.
Chad Withrow is with us. So, Chad, I want to ask you specifically about Saleh. Do you think Saleh is the best candidate on the market right now? Or if he's not, who would you put up there?
I think he probably is. I really think if we're going to go just by track record, okay, and we're going to talk about where were they as an organization, Saleh gets the benefit of the doubt because the Jets are a mess all the time, right? So I think everybody kind of gives him a pass for a lot of things because that organization is a mess, so you can forgive him for that. I would put Kevin Stefanski up there also. Kevin Stefanski was an NFL Coach of the Year. Kevin Stefanski did a lot of good things to the Browns. Yes, it fell apart. Yes, the quarterback situation was a mess. But I think I'd put him up there as well. And if you're just going by resume, I mean, Mike McCarthy's the guy. Mike McCarthy took the Cowboys to the playoffs multiple times. He's won a Super Bowl. And so many people could come back and say, well, he's only won one Super Bowl. Well, I can count a bunch of coaches in the NFL that'd love to have one Super Bowl ring and have won one Super Bowl. So I don't think you can do better than Mike McCarthy, Willie, from just the resume. But I do like Saleh a lot if paired with the right offensive coordinator. And I think Stefanski deserves mention also. But I think all three of those guys would be right there in my book.
Let's switch gears. Tell me what you're seeing on the University of Tennessee's quarterback front. I was just reading about, all of the guys in the portal, et cetera. So where do they go from here?
So they kind of go back to the original plan. And that sounds odd, but when they brought Joey Aguilar in because Nico left, the plan was, okay, that's great. You got a 5-star quarterback in George McIntyre from Brentwood Academy sitting on the bench. He can learn for a year. He can get bigger. And then he'll be the starting quarterback as a redshirt freshman, much like Nico was the year Tennessee went to the college football playoff. So that sounds like a pretty good plan. Well, George McIntyre is 195 pounds at 6'6" and didn't gain an ounce that I noticed this season. That's concerning because he is going to take a pounding in the SEC. So he hasn't gained any weight. And I think that's the one thing that Tennessee fans look at and say, I'm not sure this is going to work out. Now, he's got the arm, he's got the ability. I know the coaching staff loves the mental part of it with him and his ability to process and make good decisions and be reactive during the game. So I think, Willie, that they're just going back to that plan that now it's going to be George McIntyre's team. They're still going to have to go get a quarterback from somewhere in the portal, but it looks more and more like that's just going to be a depth piece, maybe a veteran guy from the FCS ranks that can come in and compete with McIntyre. Faison Brandon will be there, the 5-star true freshman. He's on campus as of yesterday, so he'll be waiting in the wings also. But I don't think it's a great scenario in today's game, considering that you could go get a bona fide starter with a lot of experience if you want to pay the money to do it. But it looks like Tennessee's going to trust their process and go with the young guy that they paid a lot of money to be there.
I think that's going to be something to watch in the coming years. How many teams go that route, have faith in developing the youngster and resisting the temptation to go out and grab a guy who's started 25 games. It's an interesting dilemma.
If it doesn't work out, Willie, let's say it doesn't work out with McIntyre, to your point, I would completely go away from that model. I would be done paying quarterbacks $1.5 to $2 million a year if they're a high 4-star or 5-star guy to sit the bench for a year or sit the bench for 2 years before starting. You know, keep in mind what Michigan did with Bryce Underwood. They said, we're paying you this much money, you're playing from the start. Right? Vandy, we're paying Jared Curtis this much money to be the quarterback, you're the starter. You are the number one quarterback in the country. You're going to start. You're going to learn on the move, and we're going to go. I think if you're not going to go that direction, if McIntyre can't be ready in year 2, I would completely go away from that model. I would save my money on a high school quarterback. I wouldn't even recruit one, or I'd recruit some in-state kid that's a 3-star that's not going to make much. And I would just go into the portal every 2 years and go find a guy who's been a starter that has 2 years of eligibility and pay them big money. I think that's the route if this doesn't work out with McIntyre.
Yep, it is something to watch. So, Chad, who do you like on Monday? Do you think Miami has a chance?
I think Miami has a chance because of the line of scrimmage. I think that's what gives them a shot, both offense and defense. But I'm not picking against Kurt Cignetti. I mean, this guy is a complete psychopath of a coach, and I mean that as a compliment. He is like Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men with the cattle gun when he goes up against his opponents. This guy has a look in his eye that he does not care about anything but playing fundamentally sound, crisp football and destroying the opponent. It is impressive to watch. That Indiana team does not make just watching them in this playoff, they always make the right play. It seems like they're always in the right spot. There's never a misstep on defense. They're always in the right spot offensively. It's incredible to watch how well coached this team is. I think Indiana wins, Willie, but I do think that Miami, with that offensive and defensive line, it's at least going to keep them in the game and give them a chance.
I do want to see. I would just from my own observation, I would like to see how Mendoza handles himself, because I didn't see the full Ohio State game. I think Ohio State got some pretty good pressure on him. I just want to see somebody disrupt the rhythm, because Indiana, he's like, I don't want to say he's in a rocking chair, but their offense is so pristinely timed. Nobody's disrupted the timing at all.
If anybody can do it, it's Reuben Bain in that Miami defense. I really think that's where this game could be very, very close, and Miami will give themselves a chance if they can disrupt what Fernando Mendoza is doing. And I do think that Ohio State was able to do that in the Big Ten championship game. He came through with a big throw late in that game, but they were able to do a lot of that in that game. I think Miami's got the capabilities of doing it as well, but man, it's been as impressive of a 2-game performance. I mean, really probably going back to last year, what Ohio State did dismantling Tennessee and then turned around and did it even worse to Oregon in the next game. I mean, that's what it reminds me of with what Indiana was able to do against Alabama and then follow it up with that pounding of the Ducks in that game. That was super impressive.
Chad Withrow from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. He joins us every Friday. Chad, great stuff as always. We'll catch up next week.
David, I fully expect Casey and JoJo all my life to bring you guys back from break in the next segment. So let's make it happen. And guys, have a great weekend.
You too. You heard the man, David. 615.
You had to spoil it.
615-737-1025. Let's discuss something Chad said about the Titans coaching search coming up next. I thought he had an interesting idea. We'll do that next. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D-May, Svingen, and Donick, 1025 the game. That's the good stuff. Casey and JoJo. It brings me back to going to dances in middle school.
I don't know any of this, so I'm sorry if I made you both feel old.
Well, it is a new feeling for me because usually I'm the one that makes Willie and Derek feel old. So this is a new feeling for me to have someone on the show who makes me feel old.
Sorry,
So
I tend to do that a lot.
I just remember those middle school dances, saving room for Jesus. I think I was wearing a silk shirt. Man, that was bad. That was really bad.
Did you have clear shoes too?
I did not have clear shoes. I absolutely did not have clear shoes. But let's talk about something that Chad Withrow mentioned to us when talking about a way to find a PR win for the Titans in this coaching search. And he suggested getting the band back together, hiring Arthur Smith as head coach, hiring Mike Munchak to be a part of Arthur Smith's staff, and bringing back Jim Schwartz as defensive coordinator. By the way, Jim Schwartz reportedly getting a second interview with the Cleveland Browns. So it appears that Jim Schwartz is a legitimate candidate to be the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. He's also interviewed for the Baltimore Ravens head coaching job. So Jim Schwartz in high demand. That's interesting. But Willie, what do you make of that idea from Chad? Maybe bringing back some old friends that have gone off to do, some things. I mean, Jim Schwartz has continued to be successful. Arthur Smith, his time as head coach in Atlanta didn't go particularly well, but he's been with the Steelers for the past couple of years. Mike Munchak, a friendly face as well. What do you think of Chad's idea?
It's intriguing. I don't think, like, you could do worse. I have a lot of respect for all three of those guys. I wouldn't mind having them on there at all. But I'm not sure that's the best. I'm not sure that's what they want. And you wouldn't want to do it just for the, quote, PR part of it. That would make no sense at all. If you thought that was the best combination of coaches you could get, and you got that little, historical part, then I would be all for it. But I wouldn't do it for that reason, if that makes sense.
Connor, your thoughts on Arthur Smith as a head coaching candidate?
I don't think it's the sexiest option, if we're going to be honest. On the whole opinion here, or the whole take, I think the familiarity is what is intriguing to me, because it's not anything you don't know that they're capable of. Like, what Arthur Smith is capable of as a play caller. What Jim Schwartz is capable of as a defensive coordinator. What Mike Munchak is capable of controlling the offensive line. So I think the familiarity is kind of the allure with that option. But I'm with Willie. I don't think it wouldn't be the worst option, the worst outcome of the Titans head coaching search, but I think you could definitely do better. As far as Arthur Smith as a candidate, again, the familiarity I think is intriguing. It's a cool story to see him literally come from a control coach to maybe the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, which he started with. But I think there are better options out there. I think there are better options, even from an offensive standpoint of, being the play caller and helping to develop Cam Ward. I like Arthur Smith. I have an immense amount of respect for that man. He did a lot here while he was here. But I think in terms of, if you're looking for a head coach that's going to instill culture and bring in a staff that's going to help develop the team as a whole, I think there are better options than Arthur Smith.
Caleb,
I think Arthur Smith as an offensive coordinator would be a high level hire if they could pull that off.
Agreed.
But I'm not sure that'll be the question. Is what's his market for head coaching? Does he have a chance?
Speaking of old friends, Terry in Clarksville on our text line says Greg Williams got fired today at TSU. What about bringing him back as a defensive coordinator? Thoughts on Greg Williams?
You really want to get the band back together? That's going way back. That's a serious throwback.
Ask Jeff Fisher what he's up to.
Well, Jeff Fisher is around. We see him a lot.
He is.
Yeah.
Caleb says, in all caps, hard pass on Arthur Smith. Scott in Shelbyville, we have two texts to this effect, and I will read them both. Scott in Shelbyville says, no, and no on Arthur Smith. We do not need to make another mistake. I'm sure it's all a sham, though. He is just going to bite his buddy Nagy. Hire, stupid autocorrect. Jared from Spring Hill says, hiring Nagy is not going to be a positive PR move. It's going to take winning to convince the fans Nagy is the guy. Could be. But initially going to be a huge hit to the little credibility Mike Borgonzi has. We haven't even brought up Matt Nagy today. But I do think, Willie, that there is this feeling setting in among Titans fans that Nagy is going to be the guy. It doesn't matter how many interviews the Titans conduct. It doesn't matter who else is a finalist. This is all just a dog and pony show for the Titans to hire Matt Nagy. And look, we talked about Matt Nagy.
What is this based on? Is this a narrative? Is this a gut feeling that, quote, they have these people? Like I've learned not to read too much into the guessing game. I'm not making that assumption that they're going to go to Nagy. They might well end up with him, but I do think that they're exploring other names before they get to him. But what's the belief based on?
If I had to guess, and you can answer Willie's question, 615-737-1025.
It's not based on reporting, right? It's just based on what, quote, people think.
It's based on Nagy's relationship with Mike Borgonzi.
Right,
That's,
so
that's
there's
what it's
an
largely
assumption.
based off of.
So you're making an assumption based on that. Because he knows him, that's who he's going to hire.
I do think that has a lot to do with it, Connor.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I don't know what's Connor. What like this is the essence of sports talk and social media. That alone doesn't get me personally to think, oh yeah, they're going to hire Nagy. It's logical, it's plausible, but I'm not going to say this is who they're doing based on a relationship, an assumption.
No, I 100% agree. That's why I don't think they have an idea of this specific person is going to be the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans. I think they have an idea of what they want in terms of leadership and culture and how can they help develop our team. But I don't think even Matt Nagy, just looking at him, I don't think that's the specific guy that they're looking at. Now, the longer this goes on, the more likely I am to believe that they like Matt Nagy and the relationship plays a factor into that. But I don't think that in terms of, the reports that have not come out, like you said, Willie, just people making assumptions. Oh, well, Borgonzi and Nagy are friends. That's probably going to be the hire. I don't have that line of thinking. I choose to believe, maybe this is a glass half full method, but I choose to believe that they're evaluating every single candidate, whether that's a legitimate candidate to be the head coach or just a fact-finding candidate. I choose to believe that they're trying to find things in all 20 plus people they've interviewed in terms of getting this hire right.
Jared from Spring Hill has chimed back in. He says, I get my intuition from what I don't want the Titans to do. I get my intuition from what I don't want the Titans to do. They do. So I don't want Nagy, and thus I believe they will hire him. I think you're being a bit defeatist, maybe. Is that the word? Look, I've already made a mistake with words earlier in the program. And I keep being reminded that I said pitching whoopee. That's going to become a drop, I'm sure. One texter says, Caleb says, Arthur Smith is nothing without giving the ball to a top 10 running back of all time and play action to an elite wide receiver. His offense put up 6 points in a playoff game less than a week ago, which is true. The Steelers did score 6 points against the Houston Texans, and the Houston Texans have a fabulous defense. If you're looking to defend Arthur Smith, maybe, Willie, you look at the quarterbacks he's had since he left Tennessee to become head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He had Desmond Ridder. I think Taylor Heineke was in that mix. Marcus Mariota, I think, as well in Atlanta. And he goes to Pittsburgh. He had Russell Wilson. He had Justin Fields. And he's had Aaron Rodgers. So if you're Arthur Smith, perhaps you can make the defense of, well, look who my quarterbacks have been since I left Tennessee. That's why my record may not be as sterling as you want it to be.
Sure. Anybody who doesn't have great personnel is going to have a harder time putting up huge offensive numbers. So I don't let that bother me a whole lot. You have to hope that whoever the next coach is going to be given a better chance to succeed based on personnel. Their personnel has been very low the last 3 seasons since Derrick Henry started to age and they moved on from him and Tannehill, etc. But I don't think Arthur Smith has forgotten how to coach. I just think he would be a good fit if what we're hearing is true. What Tehran's theory is that they want to really commit to a running game, and they want to use a lot of play action. They want to use their tight ends. Then I think Arthur Smith can be a good fit for that type of offense.
Let's go to Brad on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. Brad, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, hey guys, I just had a take on what I think that might be going on. If you really think in this league, when you get a job as a general manager, you generally don't get very many chances. And we saw this very similar for John Robinson. He came in, he had to deal with the coach that was already there, but John Robinson already had someone, in mind. And he went in and brought in his guy. He brought in someone he was familiar with, had a relationship with, probably someone who he had a lot of trust in with Vrabel. And so I'm not necessarily saying that Nagy is for sure 100% going to be the pick, but what I would say is that given his relationship and probably does have a good amount of trust because of the years that he spent in the building with Nagy, when it comes to the hiring process, if it comes down to two that are similar, Nagy will get the nod. So I just think that it's likely he's a very strong candidate because of the past relationship and the trust. And if anyone gets the job over Nagy, I would say that it's because they are above and beyond much more qualified and really knock the socks off. Because if it comes down to something where it's just, hey, these two are neck and neck, I think the nod will go to Nagy for the relationship. Now hang up the listen.
Thank you for the call, Brad. Can we also, we can't rule out the possibility, right, that Matt Nagy could still end up on the staff as the offensive coordinator. I don't know how many other head coaching interviews Matt Nagy has had. I mean, I could easily look it up, but can we rule out that if Matt Nagy is hired, it's not as head coach, it's as offensive coordinator?
No, I think that's a
I don't
legitimate
think you can rule it out.
possibility.
Yep, I think you're right.
Mr. G on our text line says, on the topic of coaching, I think it's criminal that Kyle Shanahan is not a finalist for Coach of the Year this season. I tend to agree, and we will get to NFL Divisional Round preview here in just a minute. In addition to Shanahan needing to be the Coach of the Year this season, I think that Robert Saleh would be a great head coaching hire for the Titans. And I do think a lot of people, Willie, share that sentiment. I do think that Saleh has rehabbed his image going to San Francisco, doing a great job with a totally depleted defense. So I do think that there's a little bit more shine on Robert Saleh, which is not a remark on his bald-headedness, because Willie and I are also bald-headed. But I do think that Saleh I think going to San Francisco, wiping off some of that Jet stank has really helped him.
Yes, I think, and just my recollection, my image of Saleh while he was coaching the Jets is that as the things went haywire around him, I thought he handled himself well. I didn't think he, blew up and unraveled in front of the media. I thought he kept a good presence, and they just, what happened to him has happened to so many coaches in New York. But many have lived to tell about it and get a better chance and do better the next time. So I would keep that in mind. And I agree with you that he has done particularly well with this 49er defense based on what he's been dealt with the injuries. That he is getting high praise for that, and he'll be up against it again this weekend with all the injuries they have.
Speaking of that, coming up next, 615-737-1025, we will preview the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, starting in the AFC. Bills at Broncos, Texans at Patriots. And I have a couple of key questions for Willie and Connor as we discuss these games. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Adam Ving, and Connor Newt, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick 1025. The Game. Willie Donick, Adam Vingen, Connor Newt, and David Janes here with you. Derek Mason out again today, as I said yesterday, taking a long birthday weekend like a 17-year-old girl. But Derek Mason's actual birthday, I believe, is tomorrow. He will be 52 years young. So happy birthday to our friend Derek Mason. He will be back on Monday. Willie is in Denver, Colorado, where the Predators will take on the Avalanche. Puck drop at 8, pregame at 7, right here on 1025 The Game. And we will look at the Predators road trip, a quick 2-game road trip tonight and tomorrow. We will talk about that this hour. But let's look ahead to the weekend in the NFL. It's the divisional round, 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. And let's start with the AFC, gentlemen. The first game of the weekend, a 3:30 p.m. kickoff on CBS. Bills at Broncos. Broncos favored by 1.5. And I've been trying to come up with key questions for each of these matchups that we can all discuss. So let's start here, Willie. For Buffalo, Denver, can a beat-up Josh Allen continue to carry the Bills on his back? Allen was on the Bills injury report with a lingering right foot injury, which he suffered late in the regular season, plus left knee and right finger injuries, both of which occurred last week against the Jaguars. So Josh Allen, less than 100%, but we know that Josh Allen, it will take a lot to get him out of the lineup. He is going to play. And we saw Josh Allen carry the Bills to an upset win against Jacksonville last week. Can he do it again in a hostile environment against the number 1 seeded Denver Broncos? What do you think?
The line, if I recall correctly, opened up at the start of the week with Buffalo being favored by 1.5, and now it's Denver by 1.5. It's still kind of a coin flip game, but I think you hit on the key to the whole thing, and that is Josh Allen banged up enough that even he can't overcome the situation he's in, especially when you're playing against the defense that the Broncos have? That's the Broncos' path to win. The Bills' defense, you can score some. I think the Broncos have a better matchup here. I like the Broncos' defense chances of slowing down Allen better than the Bills' offense slowing down the Broncos. I think it lines up well for the Broncos. If you're going to play Allen and he's banged up, like the finger is one that I'm really watching too, because that could be worse than it was during the game last week.
Weston Hermitage says, for the record, no team is 100% this time of the year. That's what makes it fun. That is true. Some teams are far more beat up than others. We will talk about the San Francisco 49ers. But Josh Allen, he's I don't want to go as far as to say he's being held together by duct tape, but he's hurting. But Josh Allen, we know he is as tough as nails. Easy for me to say. Connor, is Josh Allen healthy enough to pull off another upset? Because the Bills are beat up too.
Yeah.
They're missing some key players as well. But is Josh Allen against the Broncos, do you think he can do it again as he did last week?
It's really difficult to doubt Josh Allen as a player because he's kind of proven the impossible throughout his career. He wasn't liked in college, was horrible to start his NFL career, and then became an MVP last season. So it's really difficult to doubt it. That said, I know the entire Bills offense essentially flows through him. So that'll be important to watch. Denver's a tough place to play. We know this from earlier in the season. That Denver defense is really good. Nick Bonito is a star. They have a lot of stars on that defense, actually. But I think if you can control the Denver offense, then your offense will work for itself. I think the Bills coming into this one have a massive chip on their shoulder because they know this is the year to win a Super Bowl. This is their year to prove everyone wrong. And if they don't do it this year, a lot is probably going to change, whether that's the coach, whether that's what's built around Josh Allen, whether that's your defense. What say you? A lot of that will change. But back to the original point, I think Josh Allen, yes, he's beat up. Yes, he's got a lot of wear and tear on his body, but that guy has a mentality unlike any quarterback in the league. And that guy has the mentality that he's going to go out there, do anything and everything he's capable of doing to get a win. And I wouldn't pick the Bills to win this one. I really like the matchup, like Willie said, Denver's defense against Buffalo's offense. But I have a hard time doubting Josh Allen is capable of making things happen.
A reminder that the Bills and Broncos faced in the wild card round a year ago. The Bills won 31-7 against the Broncos. That game was in Buffalo. On the other side of the ball, Willie, is the Broncos offense ready to do its part? Because we know the main reason why the Broncos were the best team in the AFC is because of its defense. 68 sacks this season. And Denver has a defense that can carry it to a Super Bowl championship. We will talk about another team here in a minute who also has a defense that can carry it to a Super Bowl championship. And I'm just wondering, do we have enough faith in Bo Nix to go blow for blow with Josh Allen if it comes to it?
I think that is a little too much to ask, but I think Trevor Maddich did a good job of articulating what they try to do with Bo Nix. I think Nix needs to just keep you honest with a couple of big throws down the field. They love to get him out on the perimeter with the rollouts and the high percentage passes. And then he's got to have a good running game to go with him. It's what I would say is it's a solid offense. It's a good scheme. It's not spectacular with the personnel. So that is going to be the key is can the Bills do something big, like take away the running game, force Nix to have to throw it more than they want to throw it with him. The way the Broncos win is defense. You stay in the game. The offense does just enough without having to be spectacular, with some exceptions, right? They've had their moments, but they're winning. They've won a lot of one-score games, which is a precarious way to win.
Derek in Nashville says, can we stop talking about the Buffalo Bills like they didn't have the rushing champion on their offense? They indeed did with James Cook, but I don't remember James Cook being particularly good last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. If I can quickly find it here.
Yeah, he had some decent ones. Now, remember, Jacksonville has the best rushing defense in the league, so it was going to be hard to run it. But Cook, look, I've had Cook on the fantasy team the last couple of years.
Oh, me too.
I've won a lot of weeks. Like he's very, very good. He's just not. You don't focus on him as much as you focus on Allen. But yeah, they run the heck out of the ball.
So we're going to pick this game to take it to the bank at the end of the program. I don't want to give away my choice, but I'm having a hard time with this one, Connor. The line is 1.5, so it's basically a coin flip. I'm having a hard time choosing who I think is going to come out of this matchup.
Yeah, I think you're really going to see best on best on one side of the ball. You're going to see the Bills offense against the Denver Broncos defense, and those are two of the dynamic factors in this league. The thing I'm looking at is kind of the question you just asked. How is Denver's offense going to look? And I think Bo Nix has a little bit more wiggle room to make a crucial mistake than Josh Allen is, because Josh Allen can make a mistake and that Denver defense will punish you. The Bills defense is a little dwindled, and it didn't look particularly great against the Jaguars last week. So I think if Bo Nix is going to make a mistake, you can trust that the defense on the other side for the Broncos is going to be able to contain the Bills and maybe limit their scoring. But I think if you were to ask me I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to pick because we're going to do that later. But you're right. It's a coin flip. And I think the environment is going to play a heavy factor into this one, being played in the Mile High City. And that's a tough place to play. The altitude plays a factor into kicking and how long the ball is in the air. It's a lot. It's kind of like baseball. I always factor in when you're playing at the Colorado Rockies Stadium, those balls are going to travel a long way. So the altitude plays a factor. The environment's going to play a factor. It's the number one seed. You're going to their house. It's going to be a tough one. But yeah, you're right. Coin flip. I'm having a hard time with this one as well.
It just so happens that Willie Donick is our Denver correspondent today. Willie, are you getting a vibe? Are you getting a vibe?
There's orange everywhere. I can tell you. They've got the banners up. They got the numbers of the players. It's decorated downtown, and Ball Arena is just a few blocks from Mile High Stadium. And so there is definitely a buzz going on here. Now, it's not going to be wacky weather, right? We know Denver, you can get weird at any time weather-wise, and it can change a lot, but the forecast doesn't look too bad. It's going to be 37, in the 30s and sunny, so no crazy snow. I don't know about the wind, but and we know the Bills are very, very used to playing in bad weather conditions too. But I don't think the weather is going to be a big factor in this game.
Let's move on to the other AFC matchup this weekend, a 2 p.m. kickoff on Sunday on ESPN. Houston at New England. New England favored by 3 points at Gillette Stadium. Connor, my question for this matchup: can the Texans' imposing defense carry its stumbling offense to the Super Bowl?
That's a tough question because the offense for the Texans needs to step up.
And Nico Collins, I believe, has been ruled out for this game. So keep that in mind as well.
That's big. That's big. That's a reliable target for CJ Stroud, who, quite frankly, I feel like has regressed since his rookie year. But on the defensive front, yes, this is one of the best defenses in the entire league. I kind of chalk it up similar to the Broncos, and that's a defense that's capable of winning you games single-handedly. We're going to find out a lot about Drake May in this game. This is a guy who is an MVP candidate, but he's never been in this situation before. He's never been on a road, or no, he's at home, but he's never been this far into the playoffs. So he's not used to these make or break situations. Granted, it's at home, which is going to help him, but I'm still questioning whether the Patriots are a legitimate threat to win the Super Bowl or not. So I think Houston's defense is going to be capable of exposing the Patriots for a little bit. You're going to find out a lot about what Drake May is capable of in dire situations. Will the receiving core for New England hold up with Stephon Diggs and that whole bunch? How does the offensive line look against Houston's front seven, which is a tough task? So this is going to be a telling game for both teams, but I'm truly interested in seeing how New England looks against a challenge this big.
Willie, I share Connor's skepticism. We've talked about this. I share Connor's skepticism of the Patriots as a legitimate Super Bowl contender because of their strength of schedule. The Patriots have defeated 3 playoff teams this season, including the one they beat last week, the Los Angeles Chargers. And I don't have a high opinion of the LA Chargers. They did beat the Bills and they beat the Carolina Panthers. I agree with Connor, Willie, that I think Drake May's this is a statement game for Drake May. I'll basically parrot what Connor said. It's a statement game for Drake May. This is, in my opinion, by far his toughest challenge of the season.
It will be, but I think the Patriots' ability to support him, the way they got after Justin Herbert last week impressed me, and I think time has shown that you can put pressure on CJ Stroud. The Texans haven't had great pass protection over the last few years. I think they can make his day pretty miserable in that one with the pass rush. And now you take away Nico Collins. I don't know that Drake May is going to have a great game to win this. And I think we know Mike Vrabel's philosophy of the complementary football. I don't know if he's going to have to sling it around. Now, if the Texans can get on top and sort of force the Patriots to have to come back, that's the scenario that would be rough, I think, for May. But if the Patriots can just play their game, I like their chances in this. I think they will shut the Texans down and not have to score a lot of points to win.
I mean, CJ Stroud had his struggles last week in Pittsburgh. Fumbled 5 times, lost 2 of those fumbles, threw a pick. But he didn't have to do too much, Connor, because the Texans scored 2 defensive touchdowns. So the other question is, can Houston get those same defensive performances against the Patriots and avoid those mistakes that were not costly against the Steelers, but could be costly against the Patriots?
It's a game truly hinging on the play of both quarterbacks. If you're Houston, you're going to have to make Drake May make mistakes. And I think that's something they're capable of. It's a good defense. on all fronts. You've got defensive guys on the front line that are capable of getting to the quarterback. You've got secondary options that are capable of picking off the quarterback. So you've got to make Drake May make mistakes. If you are CJ Stroud on the other end, you've got to take care of the football. You've got to be able to be a game manager. And I realize that's a term that oftentimes has negative connotations. And quite frankly, I'm not okay with that. But you've got to be able to feel the motions of the game. You've got to be able to navigate your receiving core without your number one target, Nico Collins. And I think run game for Houston is going to help them out a lot. Nick Chubb looked really good last week against the Steelers. So I think that's a constant going for the Houston Texans offense. And that's a guy you feel comfortable with your offensive line. You feel comfortable handing the ball off to him and getting some good yardage there. I'm willing to bet you they'll rely on him a lot with Nico Collins being out and seeing what we saw from CJ Stroud last week. But to me, this game is a battle of which quarterback plays the game better. And I think that's hinging on which team comes out with a win.
615-737-1025 in the AFC. Bills at Broncos Saturday at 3:30. Broncos favored by 1.5 at home. Texans at Patriots 2 p.m. Sunday at Gillette Stadium. Patriots favored by 3 points. Your thoughts on those two matchups? 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we'll look at the NFC divisional playoff games. I've got more pressing questions for Willie and Connor and all of you as well. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
All right, let's tell you about F&M Bank. We've got our Ticket to the Bank segment coming up at 5:45 today. And we know a little change can go a long way, especially when you're trying to save money, and that's one of the tools of F&M Bank. And their motto, banking made easy on purpose. Here's the example. If you haven't checked out F&M Bank's Smart Swipe Roundup feature, it's time to. They'll give you a debit card, and when you use that debit card, it rounds up to the nearest dollar every time you use it. So it's a great tool that deposits change into your savings account every time you make a debit card purchase. So if you buy your lunch and it's $12.28, they're gonna round up to $13, and that 72 cents goes in your FM Bank, your F&M Bank savings account. So you build your savings every time you use the debit card. Simple way to save money. Saving money can be hard, but F&M Bank makes it easier for you. So find one of their nearest branches at myfmbank.com. They're all over the place. They're probably in your backyard. myfmbank.com. We'll take it to the bank today at 5:45. It's F&M Bank, member FDIC.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. David, we've got to talk, man. You've had some interesting choices. I mean, I love Vanessa Carlton as much as the next guy. You've been really highlighting the female artists lately, and that's a credit to you.
Thank you. Listen, I gotta be. You have to be, inclusive sometimes.
Well, the
And
white
that's what I
girl
try to
music
do.
follows me wherever I go.
That's very true.
Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
He loves his white girl music.
I love it.
Okay, good to know. But between JoJo and you had Avril Lavigne last week and
Listen,
Ashley Simpson.
I love Alvara Lavigne.
Alvra.
Yes.
I love
I get it. Avril Lavigne can be hard to say, but kudos. Shout out Vanessa Carlton. Anyway, let's look at the AFC matchups in the division. Oh, excuse me, the NFC matchups in the divisional round of the playoffs. We just talked about the AFC ones. Let's start Fox, 7 p.m. Saturday. 49ers at Seahawks. These teams just played a couple of weeks ago. The Seahawks won to clinch the number 1 overall seed and a bye in the NFC playoffs, and they will meet again. Here is my question. Willie, you can start. Can Sam Darnold go where no reclamation project quarterback has gone before? Because we've seen many of these stories. We've talked about it at length over the past few years. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. You can even throw Daniel Jones in there earlier this season before he got hurt. Jared Goff in Detroit. These quarterbacks have completely revitalized their careers, but they haven't been able to get over the hump. Can Sam Darnold be the first? Does it start Saturday against the 49ers?
I think he can do it. I am a little concerned about the oblique thing, which became a big story that had all kinds of cameras where he was trying to do. They were pretty upfront about it. But I think this is a great matchup. This is a tremendous lineup for Seattle to get the 1 seed and then play the 49ers, who had to, they've already beaten them. Then the 49ers, it takes them everything they've got to go all the way over to Philadelphia and find a way to win that game. Now travel all the way back out to Seattle. That's just a lot to ask for a team that's so banged up. So if Darnold doesn't get it done here, then I do think it's going to raise major question marks, because they should win this game.
Connor, same question. Can Sam Darnold take the Seahawks where no reclamation quarterback has gone before all the way?
I agree with Willie on this one. The oblique injury is concerning to me as well, because that's a tough injury to come back from.
And in case you missed it, he suffered an oblique injury during practice this week.
Yeah.
He is expected to play, but he showed up on the injury report, and that became a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal, because as we see in baseball, that affects the throwing motions and that affects the accuracy of a pitch. And same thing for a quarterback. So I'm curious to see how he looks, but I also share what Willie says. If he doesn't get it done, that is kind of a concern, because we saw this last year. The Vikings with him under center looked good, but they could never win the big games. They were first-round exits. They lost to Detroit in that last game of the season for the number 1 overall seed. So it will become a narrative, if he doesn't get this one done, that he's not capable of winning the big games.
This is something I found interesting, Willie, from ESPN. 10 weeks into the season, Darnold led the NFL in QBR. But starting in week 11 through the end of the regular season, he ranked 27th in QBR the remainder of the season. So,
and yet
they
haven't lost in a while.
No, and they have a ferocious defense, as you saw when these two teams played a couple of weeks ago. The other question I have, Connor, at what point will the Niners succumb to their ridiculous amount of injuries? George Kittle suffered a torn Achilles. He's out. By far, the 49ers have been the most ravaged team in the NFL by injuries. The sheer number of impact players who have missed time this season, I mean, it pales in comparison. I mean, every other team pales in comparison. And it's a credit to Kyle Shanahan, as one texter said earlier. It's a credit to Kyle Shanahan, who is probably doing the best coaching job of his career. And he's had a pretty damn good career as an NFL head coach. I'm just wondering, at some point, You're trotting out the walking wounded. I have to imagine at some point it's going to catch up to him.
I mean, I don't want to bake on anything, but on paper, this could be the week. Seattle has a great defense. I don't want to call them Legion of Boom 2.0 because that is one of the most electric defenses I've ever seen in my life. And I'm pretty young, so you guys know that. But I think on paper, on both ends of the ball, this could be the week. Look, Seattle's got the receiving champion in Jackson Smith and Jigba. They've got a good quarterback in Sam Darnold, who, as we've mentioned, has revitalized his career. They have a decent running game with Kenneth Walker. So they have capabilities on offense that on paper stack up not very well against a dwindled San Francisco defense. So on the other side, your offense, you don't have George Kittle, who is a pivotal piece of moving the football for Brock Purdy. You have a lot of missing pieces on the offensive line, which is not good for Christian McCaffrey, as good as he is. So on paper, this could be the week where injuries come to get San Francisco. I'm not going to say it will because, as you mentioned, Kyle Shanahan is doing a phenomenal job. Robert Saleh on the defensive end is doing a phenomenal job of coaching these backups up and delivering a good product. But on paper, if you compare the two rosters, Seattle has had a week of rest and they're fully healthy. San Francisco is holding on by a thread. So I would not be surprised if this is the week the 49ers succumb to their injuries and roll over.
And Willie, we're talking about home field advantages. We were talking about it with Denver previously. This will be the first time the Seahawks host a playoff game with fans in attendance in nearly 10 years because, of course, the whole COVID thing. And we know how electric that field can be. So that's another thing to factor in as well.
Yeah, there's a lot pointing that way. That is a great atmosphere. And I would continue to emphasize San Francisco having to go all the way to the East Coast, all the way back out to the West Coast to face a rested team. There's a lot that points in Seattle's favor here.
That's a good point.
One more matchup in the NFC, Sunday, 5:30 p.m. Central on NBC, Rams at Bears. Let's see, where's the line on this game? The Rams are favored by 4.5. Is that true? Did that change already? I feel like that's bigger than when I looked at it before. It is. The Rams are favored by 4.5 on the road at Chicago. And Connor, the Bears pulled a Houdini act, I guess you could say, last week against the Green Bay Packers. It's par for the course for the Bears. I believe that was their 7th win this season when trailing at the 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
An incredible feat.
Bears games don't start till the fourth quarter.
That is true. So my question is, can the Bears offense show up for 4 quarters? Because I think it's going to take more than 2 minutes to beat the Rams.
It feels like we're poking the Rams with a stick from where we are in the middle of the season, just saying, come on, do something. Because on paper, I think this is a Rams team that's capable of dismantling any team in the league. Puka Nacua is a phenomenal receiver. They've got an MVP candidate in Matt Stafford. But the Bears just continue to prove everyone wrong. I mean, look at last week's game however you want, whether that was what the Bears did or what the Packers didn't do. This, I think, is going to be closer than people think, depending on what kind of Rams team we get. If the Rams team shows up and they're the team that everyone believes they are, the team that played Tampa Bay, who was looking really good at the time and just dogged all over them, I think then this is capable of being a not so fun game for Chicago. But it's a matter of consistency for both teams. If we see the Bears team from the fourth quarter against Green Bay and the Rams team we're seeing right now, it could bode well for the Bears. If we see the Rams team that I think they're capable of being and the Chicago team that plays apparently every game in the first 3 quarters, then I think it would bode well for LA. So it's a matter of consistency on both teams. And whoever comes out looking like their best form, I think is going to come out with a victory.
Willie, we know that Caleb Williams is capable of doing miraculous things, as we just said. 7 wins when trailing at the 2-minute warning this season, which I have to assume is an NFL record. But Matthew Stafford has shown throughout his career that he can get things done when things need to get done. So I'm interested in that aspect of the matchup as well.
I've been very impressed with the Rams all year. and I think they are the better team here. I'm really looking forward to seeing if Williams can make a big impression in the playoff game, win or lose, because he's got a great opportunity here. And he seems to be a guy that, everybody is sold on the talent, and he has had some dramatic wins here with the late charges. Can he put it all together? Like that's the thing that could be fun for the Bears fans here, is you almost have nothing to lose here. You're the home underdog. You got a young quarterback. It's the first year of a coach. I don't think they should be feeling any pressure. But that being said, I think the Rams are a better team, and I've got the Rams here.
Skyler says Stafford struggles in cold weather, but of course, a lot of those were when he was on the garbage Lions. That is the narrative that's out there, that Matthew Stafford can't win in the cold. Although the Rams did not win this game, I remember the Rams giving the Eagles their toughest test of the postseason last year in snowy Philadelphia. So I understand that.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal weather.
Yes, I understand that Stafford's record in cold/snowy environments isn't great, but I do think that narrative is a bit overblown. It is supposed to be frigid in Chicago this weekend. I think the feels like temperature is going to be in the negative teens.
All right.
So,
Ooh, all right.
Beautiful
so
day in
it's,
Chicago.
It's going to be, and of course, you're right on the lake there in Chicago, lake effect, all that stuff. It's going to be freezing. Those fans are nuts. They'll have to put away their cheese grater hats. I do love those cheese grater hats that the
Well, how do
Bears-
they sneak in the actual cheese graters? How do they do that?
I did see a lot of that in the stands watching the game last week. A lot of actual cheese being grated. I don't know how I would feel if I was sitting next to somebody who was grating cheese and it was getting all over me. I don't know if I would be okay with that. I mean, maybe in the spirit of being Bears fans, I would shake it off. But Willie, I don't think I would like to have grated cheese all over me while watching a football game.
No, I think I would pass on that myself. But the weather conditions are huge. The wind is the big thing. Like the wind chill, okay, but the actual wind, is it going to affect how Caleb Williams played at USC and how Matt Stafford, throw the ball? It's a really fair question to throw out there.
Matthew from Jolton says Rams by 10. Rams by 10. Matthew from Jolton putting it down. One texter says, that is some cold temperature. Another freezer ball. Maybe. I mean, I don't know where this would rank in the coldest games in NFL history. There have been some pretty damn cold games in NFL history, but that is something that is going to factor into it. So there you have it. Those are your NFL divisional playoff matchups. Again, Saturday, starting at 3:30 p.m., Bills at Broncos. Broncos favored by 1.5. 7 p.m. Saturday on Fox. Niners at Seahawks. Seahawks, by the way, favored by a touchdown. Seahawks by 7. Sunday afternoon at 2. Texans at Patriots. Patriots favored by 3. 5:30 on Sunday. Rams at Bears. Rams favored by 4.5. That line has definitely moved in the past 30 minutes, because when I pulled it up, it was not 4.5. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the NFL divisional round of the playoffs, some outstanding matchups, and hopefully these are as good as many of the wild card games were last weekend. An outstanding weekend of football last week. 615-737-1025, excuse me. But coming up next, Willie will soon have to depart for the arena. Predators at Avalanche tonight. Let's preview this quick 2-game road trip for the Predators. We'll do that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Adam Bingen, Connor Newt, 1025 The Game. I'm sensing a theme here. Now it's Natasha Bedingfield from David Janes. D. Mace, Fingan, and Donick, 1025 the game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason's not here. Willie Donick, Adam Vingan, Connor Newt, Derek Mason out today. He'll be back with us on Monday. And the Predators, I guess you could say, Willie, have a pocket full of sunshine. See what I did there? Because they've been winning a lot of games lately. 16 wins in their past 24 games. They look to continue that run tonight against the Colorado Avalanche. Puck drop at 8, pregame at 7, right here on 1025 the game. The Predators will then head to Las Vegas tomorrow to take on the Golden Knights. That is a 9 p.m. puck drop, 8 p.m. pregame, right here on 1025 the game. And Willie, let's start with the Avalanche. It's been noted that the Avalanche are unbeaten in regulation at home this season, 19-0-3. But the Avalanche are in a bit of a quote-unquote slump. They've lost 3 of their past 5, 2-2-1 in their past 5 games overall, but they are still by far the best team in the NHL. The Predators have lost 2 of 3 so far this season to the Avalanche. And really, at the beginning of the week, I said I thought this was a huge week for the Predators because the 3 teams on their schedule are the 3 teams they are likely to face in the first round of the playoffs if they get there. I know that's still a few months from now, but they could play the Avalanche, they could play the Golden Knights, they could play the Oilers. They passed the first test, beating the Oilers at home on Tuesday in overtime. What's your read on this matchup? What will you be watching for tonight as the Predators face the Avalanche in Denver?
It's the same as it has been for the last few years when you play the Avalanche out here. It's a question of, can you manage the spurt ability, to use the Clark Kellogg basketball term. The Avalanche have the best spurt ability in their building of any hockey team that I think I've seen. It's as good, okay? They're going to rev up the engines at a speed that you cannot match for certain stretches of a game when you play out here. It's just going to happen. So how do you manage those stretches? Can you get the big save? Can you maybe get a little lucky? But you have to manage it, and you can't panic and snowball and then take 2 or 3 penalties, tax your team, because they'll just break you down. They average 4 goals a game. That's really high, and nobody averages more than 3.5. The number 2 offensive team in the league is Tampa Bay. They average 3.5 goals a game. Colorado averages a half a goal more per game. That is astonishing. So that being said, it's a tough matchup. They're 19-0-3 at Colorado. They did lose. They had won 17 straight, Adam, until Monday night when the Maple Leafs found a way to win in overtime. So maybe they're due to lose one, but look, you just have to play a really, really good game to have a chance against these guys there.
The Avalanche, by the way, have outscored opponents 101-42.
Oh my!
In 22 home games this season. They are averaging 4.59 goals per game this season at home. Here's a fun fact, Willie. The only team in the salary cap era that has averaged more goals per game overall in a season, Andrew Burnett's Florida Panthers in 2021-22, 4.11 goals per game. The Avalanche at 4.02. So there's a fun fact for you.
I give them a lot of credit for building the depth that they have. The whole thing with Rantanen last year, where they made the decision to trade him, I thought that would take, some fangs out of their attack, but it has not. Marty Natchez has been a really good fit, and they have, utilized the cap space they have wisely. Now they're missing Devon Taves, a key defenseman tonight, and they're missing their captain, Gabe Landeskog. So they're a little thin, but still, you got McKinnon, you got Makar. Can you find a way to contain them? Now, the Predators, I do think, will have some confidence going into the night. I think they feel good about how they're staying in games. But this is, I think, the ultimate test to see if you can find a way to be in the game in the third period here.
And we had Elliot Friedman on the program yesterday, Willie. And I I think I'm preparing myself for Colorado Avalanche winger Artemi Panarin. I am preparing myself for that. The Rangers today put out a letter from their GM, Chris Drury, that the team is undergoing a retool. And we know how teams don't like to use the word rebuild. But various reports suggest that Artemi Panarin is as good as gone. And Elliot Friedman thinks that the Avalanche, who made a big offer to Panarin before he chose the Rangers, could end up back on the Avalanche at the trade deadline. So watch out for that.
I'm curious, though, what would you trade? What do they have to trade, the Avalanche, at this point?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I'm not going to trade you anybody that's really good on their team. They don't have any prospects. They've traded all their draft picks. I just, at some point, to make it work, you got to give up something. I'm curious how they will try to go about that. And they're not the only team. You know, these teams that have been in the running the last 2 or 3 years, they have depleted a lot of assets. So how creative can they get to make a deal like that for a player like Panarin?
Yeah, that will be interesting to see how they make that work. But that is a conversation for another time. After you depart Denver, Willie, you are headed to Las Vegas, where the Predators take on the Golden Knights tomorrow. Again, a 9 p.m. puck drop, 8 p.m. pregame here on 102.5 The Game. The Predators won 4-2 in Las Vegas on New Year's Eve. The Golden Knights have won 6 in a row, including a highly emotional matchup last night, a comeback win in overtime against the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first matchup between the Maple Leafs and Mitch Marner since their high-profile divorce. The Golden Knights are starting to pick things up, Willie. I feel like they were treading water for a bit, but the Golden Knights seem to have their swag back.
Yes, they have Jack Eichel back. That was another guy that was missing when the Predators caught them. So they definitely took advantage of that. The fact that Eichel wasn't in, and they also had their backup goalie in the game that day as well. So I don't know. I'm looking at the scores tonight. I don't. Does Vegas play tonight?
No, they are off tonight.
One of those, so this is another thing. The Avalanche haven't played since Monday, so that's 3 days rest. The Predators actually have 2 days rest going to this, which is a lot considering how many games that they've had. So I'm wondering about that. And then, you know, when you're playing a team on a back half of back-to-backs, I would say the advantage goes to a team like Vegas, who has the day off in between. So let's cross that bridge when they come to it. But yes, I think Vegas, they went through a little dip. The Predators took advantage of that and got a big win. And now you're likely going to have to beat Vegas at their best with all their guys in this game.
Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. Ted is on the line. Ted has a question for you, Willie. Ted, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, Willie, I was the guy that caught the puck Saturday night against the Hawks, and I wanted to know if Chris Mason was throwing shade at me when he said relishing the spotlight or whatever it was, or if he was actually happy for me that I caught the puck. Just kind of want to know your thoughts on that one.
Thanks, Ted.
Well, first of all, great catch. I mean, he snagged it. It was a great catch.
I did not
that
see
thing
this.
Was coming in.
Set the stage for me here.
Well, it was a deflection that came in. It wasn't like it just barely looped over and he was sitting in the front row. That thing was coming in with some velocity. And everybody, you know, when you know it's going to miss the netting, you always have a moment. I think everybody in the crowd who's watching the flight is saying, ooh, watch out. Let's make sure nobody gets hurt. And then there's just a relief when somebody makes a great catch like that because nobody gets hit. And he made a really good catch. And no, I don't think Chris Mason was throwing shade at all. He was saying, if you make a catch like that, you deserve to flaunt a little bit. The crowd went wild when he caught it. It was a good play.
Willie, what are your thoughts on the goaltending rotation for this back-to-back? Speaking of the Golden Knights, when the Predators went back-to-back against the Golden Knights and Kraken a couple of weeks ago, Justus Onanen got the start in Vegas. UC Saros got the back half in Seattle. What's the plan for the next 2 games?
You know, it's interesting. Onanen has played his best hockey the last 4 or 5 starts.
Yes.
He has played a very good game in Colorado and a very good game in Vegas. So I think they were comfortable either way. I think it's going to be Saros tonight and Onanen tomorrow. They didn't officially skate this morning, but I think if I had to guess, that's what it would roll out on, especially, you know, with this being a division game. You you probably lean that way. But I think the key here is with Saros leading the league again in starts and minutes, that you're going to need some really good games from Justus Onanen. And I think the confidence that Onanen has and the confidence that the team has in him has gone up considerably here in the last couple of weeks. Because Onanen's if you look at his last 6 starts or so, pretty solid. Pretty solid.
Yes, and goaltending has been a significant has had a significant impact on this run of 16 wins in 24 games. UC Saros and Justus Onanen have been quite good over the past 7 weeks. Now, Connor, I want to get your thoughts on this because we've had this conversation many times on our show, and I want to know how you feel. And Willie knows how I feel. And there are Predators fans who probably feel the same way. I'm feeling conflicted about what I'm watching because although I'm excited that the Predators are winning and I like the fact that they are playing entertaining hockey and they're back in the mix, there's part of me that still worries a little bit about what it could mean for the long term as we near the trade deadline, which is still like a month and a half away. So I am getting way ahead of myself. But we sort of had this conversation yesterday when we were having our rebuild, if the Nashville market could handle a rebuild. A lot of Predators fans called me a loser for having this mentality. Where are you on how the Predators have been playing?
Personally, I'm just enjoying fun hockey being back in Nashville again. It's nowhere near the level we got close to 10 years ago, which feels absolutely wild to think about.
Yes.
But it's fun again. You're seeing fun offensive hockey finally, which was just completely absent from our lives last year and even at the beginning of this year. Now it's kind of back. And I think the veterans are playing good hockey. I think the young guys are stepping up when they need to. And me personally, I'm just kind of enjoying it right now. Now, as far as down the road, I do have a little bit of that concern. But I'm trusting in the young guys' development. I'm trusting in the guys down in Milwaukee to continue to develop. And I'm trusting in Brady Martin, to be honest. He may be a few years out if we're being completely honest, but I'm trusting that there is some level of talent to carry over for years in the future that is capable of delivering to the level at some of the top teams in the league, like Edmonton and Colorado and Dallas and Vegas and some of these teams that are just consistently good Stanley Cup contenders. I'm trusting the process here. And as of right now, I'm just kind of enjoying the moment, enjoying fun hockey, enjoying that the Predators are actually competing for something later down the line in the year. But I do have a little bit of that concern as well, that maybe being in the murky middle isn't the best thing for the Predators.
Willie, before we let you go, one of my favorite matchups within the matchup, whenever these two teams play, Colorado and Nashville, is Roman Josi and Cale Makar. And we talked about Roman Josi the other day, 5 points in his past 2 games. He's starting to look more like the Roman Josi we've been accustomed to watching here for the past decade. And I always love watching Josi and Makar do their thing head-to-head.
Yes, and I do think that Roman Josi is a particularly important player to watch these next few weeks leading up to the Olympic break, because you're starting to see more and more of Josi's A game. And it's not just the goals that he's scoring. It's overall when you watch him carry the puck, when he's attacking, when you see him dive down with the puck behind the net, make the coverage shift around, open things up for his teammates. Those are things that Roman Josi has done for years. And when he's playing at a Norris level, it's just like you mentioned with UC Saros. When you get good goaltending, your team just becomes better. When Roman Josi is playing at his best, he makes everybody on the team better. And so for them to pull off a win tonight, he's going to need another game like that. But he's been looking more like that player than he has. I would go back to even 2 years ago. Last year was just not a Roman Josi year. He didn't play like a Norris Trophy guy the whole year, and then he got hurt and missed the last 20-some-odd games. And I think it took him several games to get going, and then he got hurt again this year. So we're just now starting to see him build his game back up. So where does it go from here? That's an important question.
Willie, we will bid you adieu. Enjoy the call tonight. You can catch Willie Donick, Chris Mason, Lindsey Rowley, and the crew on FanDuel Sports Network. You can also hear the game right here on 102.5 The Game. Predators at Avalanche, 8 p.m. puck drop, 7 p.m. pregame right here on 102.5 The Game. Willie will be back along with Derek Mason. We'll all be here on Monday, 615-737-1025. But coming up next, it's Friday. I want a little bit of a lighthearted final hour of the program. So I have asked Connor Newt to bring up something that he does. He did it on Force Company. He does it on Weekend Huddle. It's time for Newt's Notes,
Oh,
DVD edition. That's coming up next, 615-737-1025. Adam Ving and Connor Newt, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick, 1025. The Game. Adam Bingen, David James, Connor Newt here with you. Willie Donick has left the program, not permanently, just for the rest of the show.
I hope not permanently. That would be sad.
I just wanted to make that clear for everybody. He has left the program for today. He is getting ready to call the game between the Predators and the Colorado Avalanche, a game you can hear right here on 1025 The Game, starting at 8 o'clock. Pre-game starts at 7 p.m. Again, right here on 1025 The Game. Well, it's Friday, and I try not to be too serious generally, but especially on Friday at 5 o'clock. So when I knew that Connor Newt was going to be helping me out for the past couple of days, I should say, yesterday and today, I said, you know what, Connor? Let's dust off an old classic. Let's bring back Newt's Notes DVD edition. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Newt's Notes, it gives Connor a chance to rant about something, which I enjoy hearing. So we are going to bring it to all of you. Here is Newt's Notes DVD edition.
Say his name and he appears. I believe in
Connor Newt.
I believe in
Newt's Notes.
that
That was the first one, too. That was the first one I ever made.
I like it.
I make my own imaging
Okay.
because Chase won't do it for me. So
Oh,
I do it.
come on, Chase.
All right. So
It's time for Newt's Notes.
it is time for Newt's Notes. And it's time for David James to close his ears because I'm about to rant about something that is near and dear to his heart. I'm motioning that we rank the athletic staff at Louisiana State University the worst in the entire nation. Not of their skill level, just as people.
Okay.
Just morally bad.
I can mute your mic right now.
I can immediately turn it right back on. He muted my mic. Anyways, we know about Lane Kiffin and the story he had and leaving Ole Miss for LSU and the way he did it and the way he dragged it out. That's old news. I think we need to look beyond that.
Okay. Kim Mulkey.
Kim Mulkey. I'll start with her. I find her incredibly, incredibly self-centered.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch her press conferences, it's just the way she talks. And I brought an example with me today, and I'm talking about it like this is Jimmy Fallon, but I've brought an example with me today. This was Kim Mulkey talking about a reporter who wrote an article being critical of the team, which not in a negative connotation.
Yes. This was the Washington Post story, right?
Yes.
That came out last year at some point.
Yes.
And she prefaced it by saying, someone's going to be writing a hit piece about me. And then everybody waited with bated breath to read it.
Yes.
And it was a good story.
It was a good story. That journalist happened to be in the arena for LSU's game against Texas the other day. LSU won this game.
Okay.
So without further ado, here is Kim Mulkey going after said reporter.
Reed, I'm going to tell you something. I beat Texas, so you can't write that in your articles anymore. Do you know how many times I beat Texas in my career? Go look it up. Do you know that I have lost 3 of my first 4 games in a conference before and made it to a Final Four? Write that article.
Do you notice something about the way she's talking right there?
Me.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not we. It's not my team. It's not my players. It's I. I have beat Texas. I have gone to the Final Four. I am the coach. It's all about me. And I think we're finding a common theme here across the LSU coaching staff. Those are the 2 prime examples, but I'm not a big fan of Jay Johnson, the baseball coach, either.
Okay.
I find him incredibly self-centered as well. It's all I won the national championship, blah, blah, blah. He's at least competitive, and Kim Mulkey's competitive too, but Jay Johnson, I think, is the least of my worries. The college basketball coach, Matt McMahon, who was the former Murray State coach when John Morant was there, and I find him to be blowing smoke up everyone's ass.
Worse than Will Wade?
Not worse than Will Wade.
Okay.
But he is pretty arrogant.
Okay.
He is the one that started this preseason thinking we have the most talent in the SEC. We are the most talented team in the SEC. We're capable of going undefeated in this league. And now you're kind of seeing the results. They're 0-4 in SEC play so far, and he's still talking, and the athletic director has come out and said, look, if he doesn't make the tournament, we're going to have to reevaluate things. So I'm deeming LSU's coaching staff, the athletic department of Louisiana State University, the most unlikable unit in all of sports.
Okay. David James, your thoughts?
I do not disagree with the Kim Mulkey part. She's pretty annoying, but again, though, I mean, I think sometimes you need confidence in yourself, in your program. Jay Johnson brings a lot of it, and I think a lot of times people don't like, how certain coaches interact. And listen, I don't care, as long as if they win, they win. If they don't, then send their behinds out of Louisiana. I don't care. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, though, is like, I think people like to cherry pick a few things of like what, like, this is the definition of what this program is. Like, I don't think.
Well, Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin has been bad for a while, but I mean, people know that, and it's like we act like every coach needs to be this like, oh, this good old boy. That's what I feel like most people like to do, and who cares? I'm glad that they have some swagger to themselves.
Lane Kiffin, I think for a time in his career relished the opportunity to be the villain, and he seemed to cultivate a more positive image for himself during his time at Ole Miss. And then all of this stuff happened, and now he's back on the villain track. I mean, I've always enjoyed Lane Kiffin showing up to SEC media days looking like Don Johnson from Miami Vice with the open collar and the suntan and all of that. And I appreciate the fact that, to David's point, I appreciate the fact that Lane Kiffin doesn't seem to hold himself to the norms of being a college football coach. Kim Mulkey, I can live without her. I don't really have any hard or strong feelings about her, but I can completely understand why she is such a divisive figure.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about the baseball coach or the men's basketball coach. I know specifically about Lane Kiffin and Kim Mulkey. And those two alone, I think you could still make your argument.
Yeah. Well, I haven't done a deep dive on LSU's beach volleyball coach, as I'm currently on their staff directory. But look, I'm okay with having villains in sports, and these two certainly relish in that opportunity. It gives us something to hate, gives us something to cheer against. And I realize I'm probably disrespecting all of Tiger Nation right now, and that's okay with me. But I don't hate LSU. I dislike these people that are helming their athletic programs. And I think Lane Kiffin and Kim Mulkey are probably the two prime examples of this makes this entire athletic department unlikable to me. They're not the only athletic department in the nation that's unlikable. Michigan, I think, stands out to me. Sharon Moore is gone now, but he was unlikable, and I find Dusty May to be obnoxious, and I find a lot of coaching staffs across the nation to be, as a whole, obnoxious. But LSU, I find obnoxious in addition to the fact that I think they're just not good people. I don't know them personally, but based on what I see in the media and the way they treat people in press conferences and treat people in the real world scenarios, I find them unlikable.
All right, let's go to our friend Adam in Portland on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. Adam, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, Adam, what's funny is because you're like, Lane used to like to be the villain. Dude, do you remember the conversation everybody was having before he made that decision? They're like, Lane's turned a page. He's mature. He has old kids. He wouldn't do that. I'm like, no, he's not. That's his legacy. That's what he wants to be, is the bad guy. And he is the bad guy. Like, yeah, I understand you could draw bubble screens and you can do a couple of things on whatever, dude. But his legacy is going to be not loyal. And Tennessee fans all knew it. That's why we were like, they're like, oh, yeah, but that was 15 years ago. That's who he is. That's what he is. The only person he cares about is Lane Kiffin. That's it. So for you to be like, he liked being the villain. He loves being the villain, dude. He still is, even as an old guy. That's why it's weird.
Thank you for the call, Adam. I'm sorry I was not forceful enough and said instead of love. But to your point, Connor, this is why a couple of weeks ago we were talking about the college football playoff, and I asked Willie and Derek, who is America's team, Indiana or Ole Miss? And they both said Indiana, and I thought they were shortchanging Ole Miss because people, as Adam just demonstrated, love to hate Lane Kiffin. And after Lane Kiffin bailed on Ole Miss, and we didn't know who was going to be coaching the Rebels in the college football playoff, there was talk of him taking the whole staff with him to Baton Rouge even before the end of the college football playoff. I thought, hey, people can rally behind the team because they hate Lane Kiffin. Willie and Derek did not agree, but
I would agree. I would agree with you. I feel it's weird. We've gotten to the point where people are like, I'm so sick of Indiana. I'm sick of watching them win. It's weird, but I think
the Hoosiers are fun.
I mean,
no,
I don't like Kurt Signetti that much.
Well, he seems like a bit of a grump, but he wins.
I mean, I can't doubt him anymore, but
Fernando Mendoza is easy to root for.
Yeah, he's likable.
He's likable. As I said the other day, he provides extreme debate team energy. All of his...
He screams Model UN to me.
Model UN is a good pull as well. All of his post-game interviews, the ones on the field, I heard the one he did after Indiana beat Oregon. And, he sounds very political, talking about Miami and then being from Miami and all of that stuff. My favorite was the interview after the Big Ten championship game where he was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. Oh my God. Like that.
The strongest glue.
Yes. And I think a lot of people like that Fernando Mendoza defeated Diego Pavia in Heisman Trophy voting because of the differences in their personalities.
This is true.
So LSU, that's I think a lot of people can get behind that. Are there any other schools where they're in the mix, but maybe not as high as LSU on that list?
I mean, Michigan comes to mind for me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to say Tennessee. Sorry, Vols. But that, I mean, but I'm trying to think as collective units because I can go around the nation and there are individual coaches I just strongly dislike. Like, I don't like John Calipari for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of what's his name for Florida, Todd Golden. I'm not a fan of him. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of John Shire.
What's not to love?
I used to despise Krzyzewski.
Well, a lot of people did.
Not because I thought he was a moron, just because I thought this guy doesn't lose, and I wanted to see him lose. But I had to listen to Rodney Terry on the call the other day, the former Texas coach that used to wear the bifocals.
Oh yeah,
maybe the worst play-by-play or he was a color commentator. Maybe the worst color commentary I've ever heard.
Dylan in Antioch says, I'm with Connor. I like Mendoza, but can't stand Signetti. Something about him seems off to me. Serial killer vibes.
Yeah. Well, he looks like Mr. Incredible's boss.
That's what David said last week, and I looked it up, and he's exactly right.
He looks just like him.
Yes. Except he's not played by Wallace Shawn. I believe Wallace Shawn voices the Mr. Incredible's boss. I've only seen that movie a few times.
Arlo won't watch it?
Arlo has watched The Incredibles.
Okay.
He doesn't like the parts where they're not fighting crime. He likes to skip past the part where they're just being a family. And he likes the part where they're fighting crime. David from Murfreesboro says, I am a Tulane fan. Never pull for LSU. A very entitled and haughty fan base.
Oh,
not likable at all. And David, I can relate. My sister is a Tulane grad, so I can relate to that. I don't really have any strong feelings about LSU. I
don't either. I dislike the coaches.
That's fair. That's fair. Any other thing you want to rant about?
Yeah, I mean, I see the text line. Gino says, "Do I like any coach that wins?" Wait. Oh, I understand what he's saying. I mean, I said Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore didn't win anything of note. Lane Kiffin hasn't won anything of note. Lane Kiffin he wins the right amount to get to a decent bowl game, and then he crumbles. I would argue if Lane Kiffin was the head coach of Ole Miss, they probably would have beat Tulane, but they wouldn't have beat Georgia. They wouldn't have gotten as far as they had gotten with Lane Kiffin because they didn't have that chip on their shoulder.
Yeah. Well,
But that is my rant for today.
do you feel better?
Yes, I do.
Okay. That's all that matters. 615-737-1025. Just a quick change of pace. I like a little Newt's Notes. And since Connor's been with us, I thought, what the hell not? Let's have some Newt's Notes. Matthew from Jolton says, a Kentucky fan hating on winning programs. One texter says, Signetti looks like the villain in the Beethoven movies. That's a deep cut. I'm going to have to look that up during the break.
Hating on winning programs.
A Kentucky fan hating on winning programs.
I come from a winning program.
Take it up with Matthew from
In basketball.
Belton. 615-737-1025. I have a question for all of you about the Titans coaching search. Now that John Harbaugh is out of the mix, we will get to that next. 615-737-1025. Adam Ving and Connor Newt, 1025 The Game. Now it's Miley Cyrus.
This is like Hannah Montana, Miley.
This is a
Cyrus.
deep cut.
No, this is Miley.
This is
Not
Miley.
Hannah Montana Miley.
But this is early Miley coming out of the Hannah Montana.
Yeah, I mean like that
yeah.
era, like
Yes.
2010. Yeah.
I worked at a top 40 pop station one summer in college, and I heard that song a lot, and The Climb. So whenever I hear The
Yeah.
Climb by Miley Cyrus, I think
Great
back
song.
to shout out Hot 99.5 in Washington, D.C.
Do you tear up a little bit for that song?
No, I don't. By the way, we're getting people telling us Kirk Signetti lookalikes. One person said that he looks like the villain from the Beethoven movies, and I just looked it up. Dr. Herman Varnick. There is a slight resemblance between Dr. Varnick and Kurt Signetti.
Beethoven is in like the dog movie?
Yeah, the dog movies. Jeff says that Signetti reminds him of Dan Aykroyd. I could see that. Dylan in Antioch is chiming back in and says, also, I'm not sure if that's how Connor spells his name with one N, but that's how Connor Oberst of Bright Eye spells his name. I bet Adam knows that band. Indeed, I do. Indeed, I do. As an emo dad, I am fully aware of Bright Eyes. But
it is not. 2 N's.
Yes, 2 N's on Connor Newt. And, of course, to start his last name as well. So the Tennessee Titans will continue the first round of their coaching search this weekend. They had Brian Dable in today. They've got Mike McCarthy in tomorrow. They've got Jonathan Gannon in on Sunday. They've got Robert Saleh virtually on Sunday as well. And it sounds like the second round will start early next week. So that isn't to say that maybe some other candidates couldn't interview during the weekend, but it seems like the first round of interviews is coming to a close for the Tennessee Titans. So here's the question I have. I was thinking of the word excited at first, but I don't think that is the proper adjective. I don't think that there are many head coaches available to the Titans who they've interviewed that would get Titans fans excited. So I've landed on the word acceptable. So here's my question. I'll ask you, Connor, and I want you all to chime in as well. 615-737-1025. How many of the potential Titans head coaching candidates would you find acceptable if hired? That doesn't mean you have to love them, but if the Titans announce, we have hired blank as our next head coach, you'll say, okay, I can live with that. I can get behind that. How many of them, Connor, do you think there are?
I mean, I don't want to go by name, but
no, you don't have to do that.
I think Saleh, Stefanski would be acceptable to me. In terms of guys that have never coached before, I like Jeff Hafley. So that's 3. Mike McCarthy. 4. That might be it. In terms of, I mean, maybe Mike McDaniel, but I see him as more of an offensive coordinator. I don't like Jonathan Gannon. I don't really like Matt Nagy. I definitely don't like Jason Garrett. Yeah, I would say 4 to 5 would be my range of guys I would find acceptable.
Okay, I'm looking at the list right now on paulkaharski.com, and this is who I think you all would find acceptable if hired by the Tennessee Titans. Mike McCoy, number 1. I'm kidding. I do think that some of you would find Matt Nagy acceptable. It does sound like there's a lot of anti-Nagyism out there, but I do think the fan base, by and large, would accept Matt Nagy as the next head coach. Stefanski, I would agree with. Arthur Smith, I would put in that category.
I'd throw him in there. Yeah.
Robert Saleh, Mike McCarthy, Mike McDaniel. I think that's it. I think that everybody else would have more of a negative reaction than a neutral or positive reaction. Like Brian Daboll, I think would get a negative reaction. Gannon would get a negative reaction. Cliff Kingsbury, I think, would get a neutral to negative reaction.
TD and I have talked about Vance Joseph before.
Okay.
He loves Vance Joseph. I do not.
Why does he love Vance Joseph and why don't you?
He loves Vance Joseph because of his approach to the pass rush, how he's capable of drawing it up and getting to the quarterback so easily. I don't think that would translate well over here, aside from Jeffrey Simmons. Right now, with this roster, and I realize they have over $100 million in cap space and they can do whatever they want, plus they will probably draft an edge rusher in the draft. I'm just not sure. He's failed as a coach before with the Broncos with a better defense. I'm just not sure it would translate well over here as a head coach. Maybe as a coordinator, I could see him coming over here, but you'd probably have to hire a good offensive-minded coach. I just don't really like him that much.
If I'm Vance Joseph, I've got a pretty cushy job right now. I'm the defensive coordinator for the number 1 team in the AFC. My defense is largely the reason why my team is the number 1 seed in the AFC. If I'm Vance Joseph, I'm sticking around. I've got a good thing going in Denver. Unless I really believe in one of these other teams, I'll stay where I can win versus a team that may need some rebuilding, retooling, whatever you want to call it. I'm still trying to grasp and we've talked about this for weeks, but I'm still trying to grasp as I just termed it, the anti-Nagyism. I'm still trying to figure out why Titans fans seem to be, I don't know if upset is the word, agitated maybe by the idea that Matt Nagy could be the next head coach. And as we talked about with Willie in the first hour, a lot of you are making that leap because of his relationship with Mike Borgonzi. And look, in all walks of life, sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. And Matt Nagy has been going on a PR blitz trying to demonstrate how he's learned from his time in Chicago and how he will do things differently if he gets another head coaching job. As I said earlier, I wouldn't be shocked if Nagy is still on the coaching staff, but as the offensive coordinator. What if the Titans were to hire Robert Saleh, for example, and they had Matt Nagy as his offensive coordinator? And I don't know if Saleh and Nagy have run in the same circles. I don't know everybody's relationship with everybody. It is fascinating how some people can be like, well, these 2 coaches worked as quality control coaches on the same staff in 2007. And I appreciate the fact that you're doing all the research. I can truly appreciate that. I am not going to be doing that. I am not going to be digging into I'm not going to be pulling up a 2006 Houston Texans media guide to look if these 2 coaches have coached together. I'm being straight with y'all. So again, quickly, I think my list of acceptable coaches and by acceptable, I mean where the reaction by Titans fans would be at the very least neutral to positive, where the majority of fans are feeling either neutral or positive. There could be some negative, but the neutral and positive outweigh the negative. I will put Matt Nagy in that category. I will put Stefanski in that category, Arthur Smith in that category, Saleh in that category, McCarthy in that category. I may put McDaniel in that category. Derek Mason wants nothing to do with Mike McDaniel as head coach of the Tennessee Titans.
He would be, if we're ranking those candidates, he would be dead last in terms of acceptability.
The thing with McDaniel is those offenses he had when he first got to Miami were electric. How many points did they put up on the Broncos? Like 70?
Yeah, it was
or
like
something like that. It was a
like
ridiculous score. And McDaniel, as is my understanding, is quite the genius when it comes to designing offensive concepts. But from afar, it seemed like once the Dolphins stopped winning and scoring a ton of points, that there were a lot of stories about why things weren't working in Miami and that McDaniel wasn't necessarily, that person who can develop a winning culture. And that's Derek's point. He thinks that he would make a great offensive coordinator. And McDaniel, interestingly, has interviewed for both head coaching jobs and offensive coordinator positions. He's for various teams. So I do find that interesting. Derek's point is that Miami changed McDaniel, that he showed up as a big old nerd and left looking like a kingpin with the tan and the designer shades and the Gucci fits, all of those things. And he doesn't think that McDaniel would be the right fit for this team. Mike Borgonzi has spoken a lot about developing a winning culture. It's why he didn't trade Jeffrey Simmons. It's why he traded Jarvis Brownlee. And Derek just doesn't think that McDaniel is the right fit for that reason.
Yeah, I agree with some of that. And if you're looking for someone to build a culture, I'm not sure Mike McDaniel would be the answer there. I think he would fit better here as an offensive coordinator just because I find him to be kind of immature. I mean, you're seeing the pictures of him in the airport dressed as the Tiger King. So it's interesting to see. There are a couple of guys like that, though, Adam, that are interviewing for head coaching positions here and coordinator positions elsewhere. Jonathan Gannon is one of those people. He's going to interview for a head coach position here, but he's interviewed for a DC position elsewhere. So I don't know really what that says about your franchise other than your fact finding. You're collecting information on every candidate you interview. And maybe some of those you're saying they're coming in to be a head coach interview, but it's also twofold to where you're interviewing them for a coordinator. Maybe Nagy is one of those people. Maybe McDaniel is one of those people. Maybe Gannon is one of those people. But in terms of who I would find acceptable, I think we've laid it out pretty perfectly. Mike McDaniel would probably be dead last on that list of acceptability of those 4 to 5 candidates. I would put Arthur Smith second to last just because we kind of touched on this earlier. I think the allure with him is just the familiarity. He knows the system. The fans know what he does. The player, well, not all of them, but a lot of the players here have played under him. So it's familiarity. I wouldn't hate him as the head coach, but I wouldn't absolutely love it. I don't think I would absolutely love anyone here, but I wouldn't say, oh my God, what a great hire for Arthur Smith.
I think Nagy is the candidate who makes the most sense just from his relationship with Borgonzi, his previous head coaching experience. We've heard a lot of Mahomes, Cam Ward comparisons, and that's a touchy subject, but Matt Nagy knows Patrick Mahomes intimately, of course, working with him in Kansas City. So he would come and inherit a quarterback who is stylistically similar to Cam Ward. So he makes the most sense. I think McCarthy, I would put McCarthy second on that list. He's coached a ton of high-scoring offenses, and he's taken the year off. I do think people forget how successful he was in the regular season in Dallas. It did not translate to playoff success, and that clouds how consistent he was as the coach of the Cowboys. You can even go back to his time with the Packers as well. I mean, he had to have had a hand in developing Aaron Rodgers early in Rodgers' career. So McCarthy makes sense as well. I do think there would be a portion of the fan base that would be somewhat excited about Mike McCarthy just because of his pedigree. So I would put him behind Nagy on the list of the candidates who make the most sense.
Yeah, when I'm looking for someone to bring in, I'm looking at how can they establish a culture. To me, Mike McDaniel, like you mentioned, and like D-Mace mentioned, I don't think he's capable of establishing a culture as well as some other guys. Robert Saleh is capable of establishing a culture. I think even Matt Nagy is capable of establishing a culture. Maybe not a completely Super Bowl winning culture, but it's a culture. Kevin Stefanski, I think, is very capable of establishing a culture. That's the number one thing, that and can you develop the quarterback I'm looking towards. And look, if you hire a defensive coach like Saleh, you're going to have to hire a coordinator. And maybe that is Mike McDaniel. But you just need someone that's capable of handling the reins the best, of managing an NFL team and making them look like professional football players. The past 5 years, this team hasn't looked like a professional football team.
Joel says Joe Rexroth would love a McDaniel hire. I don't think Joe's alone in that. Another texter says, you can't call a man wearing shants a kingpin, meaning the shorts, that the pants that he hikes up to his calves or whatever. I mean, look, he's got a look. He's got a look. Some people would call it fashionable.
He's expressing himself.
He is expressing himself. I mean, that was a sharp suit he was wearing on the Southwest flight from Nashville to Baltimore.
It's probably worth more than we make in a year.
Hair Metal Henry says, if you want to establish a culture, hire a coach who can kick half the team's ass if needed.
Robert Saleh.
Saleh is the only one I can think of that would fit Hair Metal Henry's description there. One texter says, when I watch the Titans play, they seem to be desperate for a leader that exudes confidence and discipline. Nagy in Chicago was too much of a loose cannon. Saleh is the fit. Saleh, I think, could be the coaching candidate who elicits the most excitement from the fans.
Yeah.
And I do think there are a lot of people out there who wonder about his time in New York and whether that was up to the owner, the crazy owner whose son was giving him Madden scores or whatever to talk about trades and the
Yeah.
whole Aaron Rodgers thing. It would be hard for any coach, to stand out positively when you're dealing with that. But as I said earlier, Saleh has done a hell of a job rehabbing his image in San Francisco with that defense being so undermanned because of injuries. Gunner says everyone was ecstatic thinking about McCarthy when Brian Callahan was fired. Newsflash: just because Harbaugh didn't come doesn't change the state of the franchise. Another texter says, which candidate do you think instantly raises the floor? I'm not sure if that candidate exists. Like, I do think there are candidates who can help the Titans raise that floor, but I think the candidates know that the job they're getting into is going to be tough. And I understand there were multiple examples of first-year coaches completely turning teams around. Mike Vrabel in New England, Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, Ben Johnson in Chicago. I'm not expecting the next Titans coach to replicate that. I would like for them to win 6 games next year. I would take that at this point. I mean,
That's bowl eligibility.
yes, it's a low bar. 615-737-1025. How many potential Titans coaches would you find acceptable? I'm not saying excited. I'm just saying acceptable if they were hired by the Titans. 615-737-1025. We'll take your reaction. We'll wrap up the show coming up next by taking it to the bank. Adam Ving and Connor Newt, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick, 1025. The Game. Adam Bingen, Connor Newt here with you. As we do at the end of every week, we will wrap it up by taking it to the bank with our friends at F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. You can visit one of their locations throughout Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky or online at myfmbank.com. So, Connor, you will be representing Derek Mason today. I did not tell him that, so you better do well.
I'll do my best not to let him down.
So, I did not want to bother Derek Mason on his birthday weekend.
It's Apple Teeny time.
It is Apple Teeny time for Derek Mason. I did not want to bother him. So, you will be representing Derek Mason this week. I've got my picks. David, did Willie get his picks in?
He did.
Okay, let's recap last week before we do this week.
All right, boys. So first off, let's go to the general questions. The first one was, will the Carolina Panthers cover against the Rams? I said yes, along with D-Mace. Willie and Adam said no, and we were correct. Me and D-Mace were correct. I don't even know why. What is wrong with me today? But yeah, they covered. So it was a big game. That was big. A lot of us were surprised. You know, I know Adam was in the group chat was really surprised that they even covered.
Yes, I was.
No one really. And again, I don't think anyone thought the Panthers would be competitive in that game, but they were. And the next one was Bills versus Jags. Who wins? Me and Adam both picked the Jags, and D-Mace and Willie both picked the Bills. And D-Mace and Willie got the points, and me and Adam didn't get our Duval.
We did not.
It was sad.
But that nice lady told Liam Cohen to keep his head up, and that didn't cause a stir all week long.
No, not at all.
No.
And let me look. Oh, I totally forgot. I didn't even add your picks. I'm so sorry. So I'm gonna go with Willie first. Willie said Indiana over Oregon -3.5, and Chargers +3.5. He got only one of those right for a total of 4 points for 97 total points.
Okay.
D-Mace said Vandy over LSU, and they would cover 14.5. That didn't happen. And that they would make 10 threes. That also didn't happen. For a total of 4 points for 70 total points because he only got those two general questions right.
Okay.
I said the Hoosiers would win and Tyler Tanner would have 20 points. I got that right for a total of 7 points for 72 total points. And Adam, I'm going to be really honest. I didn't get your point. What you picked last week, so I
let's see if I can recall. I did pick the Bears to beat the Packers.
Okay.
And I picked another game. Hold on, I've got to pull up the
I'm sorry,
score.
everyone. This is on me.
That's okay. Let's see. I did pick the Bears to beat the Packers, and I picked the Niners to cover against the Eagles.
Okay, so I
got both of those.
Yeah, so you got 6. So you have a total of 83 points.
Okay. Good for me. All right. Let's do our general questions first. Bills at Broncos tomorrow in Denver, Colorado. Let me make sure that the line hasn't changed again since I last looked at it. Denver favored by 1.5. Straight up, who wins? Connor, representing Derek.
Oh, this is a tough one. Like we talked about, it's such a coin flip. I'll stick with my guns. Give me the Buffalo Bills to pull off the upset.
Okay. David, what did Willie say?
Willie said the Broncos, and I will also say the Broncos.
I will take the Bills. I will take the Bills as well. All right. Monday, national title game in college football. Miami versus Indiana at Hard Rock Stadium. Last I checked, Indiana favored by 8.5. Connor, will Miami cover?
No. I believe Indiana wins this game by 10 to 14 points.
David?
I believe in the U, so give me the U to cover. And then Willie said the IU would also cover.
I will also take the Hoosiers to cover as well. All right, Connor, you can do the honors. Your 2 individual selections.
Okay. Of course, you knew I was going this route. Kentucky and Tennessee play this weekend, and I'm not going to give a straight up who wins because that's cursed. I believe that this game will result in 130 or less combined points between the two teams.
Oh, here comes the money.
Here comes the money.
And
I pressed the wrong button.
That's okay.
Maybe that's a good sign.
So which game is that?
That is Kentucky, Tennessee this Saturday.
Okay,
tomorrow.
Kentucky at Tennessee. Tennessee favored by 5.5. You said fewer than 130 total points.
Yes.
The over-under, by the way, is 147.5. So you're really taking the
I'm
under.
hammering the under.
Okay, and what's your second pick as well?
I'll go hockey.
Okay.
Predators playing a back-to-back this weekend. Of course, playing tonight. Puck drop at 8 p.m. Playing Vegas tomorrow. Give me Philip Forsberg to score 3 goals between the 2 games.
Oh,
I like that.
consider that for degree of difficulty, David. All right. What were Willie's individual selections this
Willie
week?
said the Seahawks -7, and then the Patriots -3.
Okay, let me see here. I'm going to stick with the NFL as well. I will take the Rams to cover on the road at Chicago. Rams by 4.5 is the line. I picked the Bears last week. They made me look good at the end, but I will take the Rams to cover at Chicago on Sunday evening.
I like that.
I am going to college basketball here, and maybe it's a good thing that Willie isn't here, because I say that the Florida Gators will defeat the Vanderbilt Commodores at Memorial Gym
I really like that.
tomorrow.
No disrespect to Vanderbilt, but Florida's a team that's heating up right now.
Florida is heating up. Vanderbilt coming off of a tough game at Texas. And sometimes it's just when you catch a team. And I think Florida is playing well. So I say Florida pulls off the upset tomorrow at Memorial Gym. David, your individual selections.
So I'm going a little different route. I'm going both college. So I'm going with, it's a Vandy day for me, apparently.
Okay.
I said Vandy men's basketball will make 8 threes against Florida. And then I'm just a big Michaela Blake's fan. I think she goes for 35, and Vandy beats Michigan. So both of those have to hit in order for
Okay.
me to get the point.
Okay. Well, those are our selections. We'll see how we do. Our texters from the previous conversation about the coaching search says every coach has seen how Amy operates. Titans fans have no choice but to accept whoever is going to deal with her. I mean, we did have someone call yesterday and say that she is a hands-off owner.
She's hands off, everyone.
She's hands off. Look, I do think that the Harbaugh flirtation certainly helps the Titans in the long run, or maybe just in the short term. Just because for a week we heard about all of the great things about the Titans. They've got Cam Ward. They've got Jeffrey Simmons. They've got cap space. They've got Mike Borgonzi. They've got a new stadium. We've heard all of these great things. So the perception of the Titans around the league certainly seems like it was bolstered by this heavy pursuit of John Harbaugh, even though the Titans didn't get a chance to actually speak to him before he made his choice. So we'll see if that goodwill helps in this coaching search. I don't think the other coaches were necessarily swayed by this. I can't imagine, for example, Mike McDaniel going, I was kind of lukewarm about this, but then I heard what everybody said after John Harbaugh, and I really like the Titans' job now.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be, or anybody's going to be swayed by that. But the Titans did get their moment in the sun over the past few days, which is not something they've really had an opportunity to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I think the determining factor in the search is maybe a combined factor between how do people view Mike Borgonzi and how do people view Cam Ward. I think those are the two things, because whoever takes this job is going to be tied to Cam Ward. They're going to be looked at based on how Cam Ward performs. If he fails, it's a failure of a hire. If Cam Ward succeeds, then maybe it's a successful hire based on the record of the team. But I think the record will continue to grow as Cam Ward grows, because you're going to build around him. You're going to find pieces that complement him. And on the other end, I think you're going to find pieces that complement Jeffrey Simmons, because you've made it clear you don't want to trade him and you don't want to let him loose. And maybe that's the right decision. But in terms of people are looking at how loose of a cannon your owner is, maybe that is a factor, but I think it might be a little bit of a overrated factor, because I think the respect for the GM and the love of the quarterback outweigh the scenario of, well, the owner is a loose cannon.
The Predators have 2 big games tonight and tomorrow. Tonight in Colorado, an 8 p.m. Central puck drop. tomorrow in Las Vegas, a 9 p.m. Central puck drop. So get your caffeine if you want to watch that game. And I'll reiterate what I've said over the past week. I think this week is huge for the Predators to see how they match up against the top teams in the Western Conference. They passed the first test, beating the Oilers in overtime on Tuesday. As we have noted, the Avalanche have not lost in regulation at home this season. They're just bludgeoning teams on home ice. Vegas is playing really well, have won 6 in a row. So I do think, these next 2 games are going to be telling. And kudos to the Predators. They've made this season a lot more interesting than we all thought it would be. The week of Thanksgiving, they lose that game 8-3 at home to Florida, and we were all just, all right, it's going to be the same season as last season. We don't really need to pay attention. I'm glad that we're paying attention to them in mid-January. By this time last year, they were so far out of it that we were just waiting for people to be traded, and that's what we were going to talk about. But I want to give Andrew Brunette credit, because I've been hard on Andrew Brunette. I called for him to be fired on more than one occasion since the start of last season, but the team is playing hard for him. Not that I ever thought that they weren't, but he seems to have helped galvanize the team. So I do want to give an attaboy to Andrew Brunette, so people can't say that I haven't said nice things about him.
Attaboy Bruno from Vingen.
Yes, I like Andrew Brunette. I think he's an incredibly smart guy, and I still have my questions on whether he's the right coach for this team in the long run, but the team is playing well. The goaltending is playing a big factor in it. So we'll see if the Predators can keep it going. Again, really tough tests Friday and Saturday. Quickly, one texter says on the coach, I think the point is moot when it comes to a coach until they fix the roster. Hire whomever. Ben Johnson worked in Chicago because of the roster set in place. This team is 3 years of great drafting away from any coach making any impact. I mean, that sounds nice, and I agree with the idea of being patient sometimes, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be patient.
No, I mean, we kind of talked about it yesterday with the maturity. There's maturity on the side of the Titans, but a majority of the fan base is like, we want to be competitive now, and that's not going to happen in a year. You're not going to go worst to first, not with this roster, but there's a possibility. You never know, but we're all excited about the coach because we want to see how they develop about a quarterback and how they grow this team.
Connor, I appreciate you sitting in with me.
Thank you.
The past couple of days. Well,
I appreciate you.
Derek has his Appletinis, and Willie's been out of town, but we appreciate you here, not only on DVD, but on the station as well.
Oh.
You can hear Connor on Weekend Huddle every Saturday morning with Nick Frazier. A really great listen if you're out on Saturday morning doing whatever the hell it is you do on Saturday morning.
Tomorrow, 9 to 11.
Tomorrow, 9 to 11. But that'll do it for us on DVD this week. We will be back in full force on Monday. Willie will be back in town. Derek will be back. The Predators are at home all week next week. So Willie, Derek, and I will all be together all week long, which doesn't happen very often during hockey season when we have a full week all together. But we will be back in full force on Monday at 3 p.m. Have a wonderful weekend. On behalf of Derek Mason, be loved, love on your people. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Don't forget about us. We won't forget about you. We'll talk to you Monday at 3. Peace.